Hey, what's out? Good to be back with y'all again for another day. Something is playing in my background that probably shouldn't be. Hold on. Make sure I got everything muted. As you can see, we going in here and doing this thing a little bit earlier today. And that's for good reason. This the new time is pushing back. We pushing back to 9 o'clock. So let me get myself situated in here. Appreciate y'all for joining me again. So we got if you read that topic in that description right there, we got an interesting bit to cover today, and I need all of the time that I got to be able to do it. So please bear with me. Let me make sure. Okay, that's where I'm hearing it from. All right, there we go. So yeah, I need all of the time to be able to do this one, to get it covered in the right way. I can't just have the 2 hours for this. So I'm gonna go all the way until 1 o'clock, or I'm gonna play this thing out, because we going out of here, out of the office. So when we gonna be back at the house. So I'm gonna do get as much game time on this thing as I can. Plus, I've been enjoying Fortnite. I ain't gonna lie to you. Let me get my levels on my music right. There we go. Get my mic levels right. Check. All right, there we go. All right. So, echo. I don't know where I'm hearing the echo from, but it don't matter. I'm gonna get on this Fortnite. So I got some videos already queued up for us, for us to watch. So let's just jump right into that. The topic for today, I don't know where I'm hearing the echo from, so I can't fix it. Hello. Anyway, so the topic for today is the growth of the music industry. As you know, on Tuesdays we do a music related topic. So let's go ahead and get into this one and get this music turned off. All right, there we go. I don't know why it blasted on me like that. Minimize. All right, now this first video is from phonographs to Spotify, a brief history of the music industry.
So I will see you for drinks later.
Brian, I thought you said you had like 1 million emails this
All right, there we go.
Yeah, but Grammarly, I just downloaded it for free and it's super helpful. Grammarly is an AI-powered writing tool. This morning, I was able to draft an email and reply to my manager in...
All right, y'all enjoy that while I get set up for this game.
What happens when you take one of the most streamed songs of all time, say Drake's One Dance, and record it onto the oldest format of recorded music, a wax cylinder? Okay, stop. Not great. But fast forward to today, and a lot has changed. We no longer really own music. We just stream it.
There we go.
Streaming is almost entirely responsible for getting the industry back on track. But the question is now, can streaming take it back to its heyday after fundamentally changing the way we consume it? Maybe. But first, let's look at how we got here. So, back to that phonograph. This was the start of it all.
Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go.
Thomas Edison's invention meant that for the first time, people could listen to music from the comfort of their homes, and it could also be shared and sold. As the phonograph's popularity grew, a few enterprising Americans came together to form what is now known today as Columbia Records. Over the next 5 decades, the phonograph took different forms, from this cylinder shape to flat discs, until finally being replaced by In 1948, Columbia Records introduced the long play, allowing for multiple songs on one record. Vinyl remained the dominant recording format for most of the 20th century.
Go, Johnny, go, go! Everybody, let's roll! The ring of fire.
And as rock and roll, blues, and country kicked off, sales boomed and albums sold out. But by the late 50s, new technology would again rock the industry. When first introduced, the RCA magnetic tape wasn't a game changer. But being able to record music on a smaller device for greater portability inspired a series of innovations. Adoption by car makers ensured a quick rise in the tape's popularity. And by the late 60s, most cars offered 8-track players. For the first time, driving down the interstate and listening to, say, the Beatles was possible.
Right.
Road trips got a whole lot more exciting. But it would be Sony that changed the game with the iconic, yes. With the Walkman, listeners could take music with them whenever and wherever. Around the same time, MTV launched, giving record labels an opportunity to market their music. For artists,
I hope y'all listening to
that
this.
meant it wasn't just about the song anymore, but the ability to offer a whole artistic package, and that became a big focus for icons like Madonna and Michael Jackson. But with the rise of the digital era came the unraveling of the cassette tape. Thanks to booming CD sales, the music industry partied like it was, 1999. Profits peaked that year, with $14.6 billion in sales in the US alone. There was Nirvana and Tupac, the Spice Girls, Oasis, Backstreet Boys,
everybody,
Britney, Mariah, and Selena. Unfortunately, you can only party like it's 1999 for so long. Software like Napster paved the way for a new era of piracy. CD sales plummeted as more and more people logged on. Free music didn't sit well with the music industry, and they fought long and expensive legal battles, eventually seeing some sites shut down. But the damage had already been done. Sharing music over the internet was here to stay.
I've got an iPod here.
And true, with the introduction of the iPod and MP3 players, the industry did see a boost from digital downloads. But it wasn't enough to make up for the dwindling physical format sales. and artists were forced to tour more to bring in the dough. Meanwhile, streaming was just getting started. Some companies introduced subscription models with limited music libraries, while others, like Pandora, operated as internet radio stations with ads.
I'm gonna play this
But the
again.
breakthrough came in 2011. Swedish startup Spotify managed to do what the others could not: license a vast library of music. Instead of buying and owning songs and albums, we started listening to ads or paying monthly fees in exchange for access to, essentially, all the music in the world. Over the following years, there was an explosion of services. Artists and labels now count on these services for the bulk of their profits from recorded music, while many argue that artists are not being paid enough. Although streaming is responsible for huge revenue growth in the industry, tech companies aren't yet making money from it, and it's still not clear how they will, as they continue to prioritize growth over profits. Plus, if history is any clue, it won't be long before new technology shakes everything up
Again. So I'm gonna let whatever play after this play, so I can get a good run on this game.
Squarespace's creative tools let you design a unique, engaging website that fits your personal style and professional needs. Start your free website trial.
Yeah, y'all bear with me.
Stop strategizing so much.
All right. So what we just heard, let's listen to one more.
So I teach the history of the music industry, which is a fantastic class. It begins with Thomas Edison and the invention of the phonograph back in 1877, the beginnings of the recorded music industry in the 1890s, the birth of radio, 1920, the coming of magnetic tape after World War II, the LP, the transition to digital, all the way up to the present day in iTunes and Spotify. And throughout the course, we are looking at the history of the music industry in the United States, but we're also looking at American history in a broader sense, and always going back and forth and looking at the links between the music industry part and American society, culture, and politics in a larger sense.
Okay, so he didn't say too much. I need something longer for us to listen to real quick. Give me a second, y'all. All right.
There's a quote
There we go.
describing music from 1742. Music is several noises thrown together that sounds bad, because everyone has worse music taste than me. Philip von Kilian. In this video, I will cover the entire history of music, from its birth 200,000 years ago until its death in 2008. Yes, music died in 2008. It was so quick you probably didn't even notice. I will also officially rank the 5 best musical pieces in human history. I've been a doctor in music history for 5, almost 6 weeks now. I bought the degree from a Laotian online college,
I
and
would
as a
change
doctorate,
it, but
I
I'm in the
never
middle of
used
this match,
Wikipedia. If I didn't
so
know
I can't.
something, I made an educated guess. Here is the entire history of music.
Hopefully he gets
We need to
serious
start with
at some point.
prehistory. Probably want me to start talking about singing animals or even the Neanderthals who had instruments very early on. Nope, this is a video about human music. The music of winners. The first musician was born 200,000 years ago. His name was Ugg. Also the most famous musician of all time, as all of humanity knew him. He invented music by finding out slapping your hands together made noise. His first
Yeah, my
song
man's
appealed
is
to
whack.
teenagers at the time. It was called Only 2 jobs and I don't know what to do with my life. After the first song became a hit, his ego exploded. And he released his second song, My Girl Got That Mammoth Booty. The flexing got him in trouble with authority. So ever the rebel, he released his final song. The Chief owns 99% of furs. Later that day, the Chief beat him in the head with a club. He died at the age of 27. Which at the time was ancient. Which meant music was a viable career. And an industry was born. But all instruments were garbage until the first civilization.
Okay, I can't take
we
this no more.
begin in ancient Mesopotamia, where...
Bro, it's making me mad. There we go.
Wow, I just built the most amazing workflow on Monday.com.
You build your own workflow? Why? There are a bunch of amazing pre-made templates you can just choose from.
Nah, I'm a custom-made kind of gal.
Go.
I work with a lot of vendors, so I made my own form.
That came in handy.
It has everything that I need to know, and when they click submit, it automatically turns into an item exactly the way I want to see it. It just gives me peace of mind, knowing that everything is organized just the way that I like it.
That sounds cool, but I just click Add Template, and I found a workflow someone made that has a lot of cool automations. Like, when a creative is approved, it automatically moves the item to the production board and then notifies all the relevant people so they can move it forward. It literally does most of the manual task I used to do. So you can just find a board someone else already made and adjust it to your needs.
Nah, that's cheating. My workflow is handmade. It fits me perfectly. It's a work of art.
It's an art of work.
That's deep, man.
Monday.com work management platform is flexible, so no matter what it is you do or however you like to work, it can fit you perfectly. Go to Monday.com and start your free trial today.
What's up, man? I'm with MTV News. I was wondering if you had any MP3s on your computer.
Yeah.
So, how many MP3s do you have on your computer?
About 600.
6 or 7,000.
Come again?
6 or 7,000.
Probably like 300.
For real? Where'd you get them from?
Truthfully, most of them from there.
Dang, I'm trying to change this stupid video.
Digital music was through Napster. And I didn't really understand what it was, but I knew I could get any song I wanted.
How many of you download music from the internet? Okay.
When I realized that there is an opportunity to just download everything we want and not really pay for it, I started to use it.
19-year-old Sean Fanning developed the Napster computer program. Today at BYU, he was treated like a rock star.
It's strange, it's awkward. I'm not used to this.
He's an awesome guy, and he's so young, too.
So you don't think this is stealing?
Not at all, because you're just getting a few songs that you find interesting and seeing what's up.
There was this era of discovery that felt like the virtual version of a record store.
I remember saying to myself shortly after downloading my first MP3, I'm never going to buy music again.
Don't steal the music! 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 Don't steal the music!
If people leech off the system for free, the creators of copyright will not get compensated and the movies and music will not get made. It's as simple as that.
When it became possible for people to get music for free, there was a lot of outcry and a lot of concern about, well, why do people think it's free? Why is that right?
If you make something and somebody takes it without compensating you, you're hurt by that.
Everyone would like to have everything for free. That's not how we work. And it's not fair, it's not right.
When you got a technology that gives away what you do free, how do you compete with free? I mean,
when Napster hit, it wasn't just an issue for the music industry,
young teenagers, mind you, are coming up with ways we can get DVD movies on our computers for free.
Anything that was reducible to a 1 or a 0 was potentially available freely to consumers.
All of this was, from a music industry executive perspective, terrifying.
On the flip side, for the independent artist, Napster was probably a good thing. It made it so much easier to get exposure.
Probably 96, 97. Started making my first songs on the computer and putting them on the internet. And then Napster came out. Yeah, it was massive, you know? I'd look at my songs on Napster and like see them on there like a lot, you know? If a lot of search results came up, it was like a lot of people had it. So you could kind of tell like that, like, wow, so this stuff's really spreading, you know?
Making MCs freeze and drop to their knees like getting caught smuggling keys to Caribbean seas at ease.
I think Napster did a lot for independent artists at that time. It was the beginning of an independent path to find your following such that you can sustain yourself, have a career without having a major label contract.
Benefit was and is an awesome MC, but way ahead of his time. The major labels weren't paying attention to what was happening in the MP3 world. To their loss, because the MP3 world was like a minor leagues. And if somebody floats or rise to the top, then they could, zoom off to that other level.
The old paradigm from the last century only was good for that last century. The new century, I look at Napster as being new radio. And people are finding ways that now you're gonna have 1 million artists and 1 million labels now all in the record game.
I got the deaf people hearing this, blind people seeing this, paralyzed from the neck down, still feeling it.
But then the flip side, if you're making a living off of music as a musician, and suddenly your revenue streams like cut out from under you, like, yeah, I totally understand.
Paralyzed from the neck down, neck down, neck down.
I remember Lars from Metallica was like, he was really mad about it.
Napster hijacked our music without asking. They never sought our permission. Our catalog of music simply became available for free downloads on the Napster system. The argument I hear a lot, that music should be free, must then mean that musicians should work for free. Nobody else works for free, why should musicians?
Drummer Lars Ulrich and his bandmates say Napster is illegal and filed suit against its creator for copyright infringement.
Most artists weren't really too thrilled with being on the other side of the kind of the hip, hot, new, young thing. But Lars was, frankly, unafraid to get out there.
If they want to steal Metallica's music instead of hiding behind their computers in their bedrooms and dorm rooms, then just go down to Tower Records and grab them off the shelves instead.
When I saw Lars Ulrich going on that campaign, I just remember thinking that was the lamest thing I'd ever seen. Like, Metallica, you're all millionaires. So what are you complaining about?
What's your beef with Metallica then?
Why not let the people listen to music?
As far as I'm concerned, Metallica is off my best album.
There was definitely a lot of hate and a lot of backlash. My friend definitely said, F Metallica, I'm done. I'm only listening to Nirvana now.
I've removed all the Metallica files from my hard drive. I don't want anything to do with Metallica anymore.
This mattered to a lot of people. Napster was like this symbol of freedom. And so when you have guys like Lars Ulrich trying to shut Napster down, you're gonna have a hell of a backlash.
Lars's argument was the one that I supported, and others in the industry did as well. But this was an incredibly disruptive force in the music industry, no matter what side of the argument you came down on. And the industry had to shut all of this down.
Using a PC to download music is one of the hottest of today's computer trends, and that has the recording companies up in arms and heading to court. At the center of their dispute is a music-sharing internet service known as Napster.
The litigation against Napster was fairly monumental. They were fighting us in court aggressively.
Napster's point of view is like, we don't personally share any files, okay? We just facilitate connections between users, and we're not responsible for policing the contents of our network.
Pure and simple, it was theft of intellectual property. And I just can't get past that fundamental reality. I still get agitated, even at this point, years later.
CNN covered the court decision live. So there was a lot of pressure. You know, 25 million people were using Napster every single day and really invested in the outcome.
In the end, the judge ruled that it was obvious to everyone at Napster that they knew what was going on. Napster appealed that and lost again.
In a 68-page opinion, the appeals court said Napster knew its users were violating copyright infringement laws.
The song swapping service this weekend will begin blocking access to millions of musical files on Napster.
We stopped the sharing. We basically took the servers offline. Over a period of time, the obligations to the creditors just overwhelmed the company, and there didn't seem to be any way to get revenue in. And so the board determined at that point the best thing to do would be to go into bankruptcy.
The days of free music with Napster, folks, are over.
It felt like this really dark, horrible day in San Francisco. I was depressed. Lots of people were depressed. Technology had lost.
But then, of course, the moles started popping all over the place.
There are already dozens of alternatives to Napster, with names such as My Napster, Napagator, and CuteMX.
We had other file sharing services crop up that were in many ways more insidious. There was no centralized server that the files passed through. And that was much more difficult to address.
Even if they crack down on one program like Kazaa or something, I think there's going to be another program coming out that in the next week or two that's going to be doing the same thing.
The huge problem at the time is that it was very hard to tell people not to use peer-to-peer methods. And they'll say, well, what should we use? And the answer was go to a record store and buy a CD. That's not what they wanted to hear.
The record companies have to wake up, and I think they will, to the fact that they're no longer in the business of hiring trucks and having big warehouses and shipping CDs around. People want their music via the internet.
The answer to the piracy was to give people what they otherwise wanted in a legitimate way at a fair and reasonable price.
We needed to have a legitimate online music store.
The labels tried in their own lame ways to debut digital music stores of their own, which were total failures.
I remember trying to use these things and on these special players, and it was really pretty antediluvian, and nobody really signed up for these things. For the longest time, there was such a divide between Silicon Valley and the music industry. You know, it was just a big war.
It was not in the software industry's interest to help the music industry. They sold a lot of computers because people wanted to get their music and other content for free.
The music companies, they said, you know, you guys are all promoting piracy, and the tech guys are like, oh, you guys are all a bunch of Luddites, you don't understand, you have to change your business model. And the one guy who was able to bridge that divide was Steve Jobs.
I've been back about 8 to 10 weeks, and we've been working really hard. And what we're trying to do is not something really highfalutin. We're trying to get back to the basics.
Steve Jobs had been fired at Apple and then been brought back. And at the time, Apple, was in some ways a bit player in the computer space. The Mac products represented about 3% market share.
This company's absolutely going to turn around. As a matter of fact, I think the question now is not, can we turn around Apple? I think that's the booby prize. I think it's, can we make Apple really great again?
In 2001, he introduced the iPod.
There it is, right there.
So Steve saw a great opportunity in the music space for Apple.
Music's been around for a long time. You know, it's a real, tangible market. And
what's up, everybody?
I think if we can bring some value to that market, then we'll succeed.
In late 2002,
thank y'all for tuning in.
Steve Jobs
Appreciate all the
called
likes
and
on
said
TikTok.
that he was going to create an
I'm gonna run
online
that back.
music store.
I'm just getting warmed up.
And I saw that
What's
as a
up,
perfect
Shane
opportunity
McKinney?
to at least say, all right, we've got something out there.
Shane McKinney, thanks for tuning in.
We came up to Cupertino and went into a conference room, and Steve walks in. I don't think we even knew that was going to happen. But he walks in and says, I want to show you the iTunes store. And then he sits there for 2 hours, himself with the mouse, showing how the store would work.
He was like a little kid in a candy store. Absolutely, you know, fascinated with this thing that I remember thinking, it's so simple. And in fact, it was, but that's what made it brilliant.
Appreciate the follow.
It worked better than anything we'd ever seen before. And it became obvious this was a good thing to go with.
Let me get some background.
The one thing, of course, about the iTunes Music Store, he wanted every song to be a buck.
Steve Jobs wanted to sell singles off of every album that was on iTunes. He did not want a single album on the store that you could not break down in singles.
That had, you know, really serious ramifications, you know, for the music industry. There would be unbundling the album.
A CD is a bundle. It's a bundle of songs.
Out?
If you want
How
one
you
song,
feeling, man?
you must buy the entire package.
Hope you enjoying your
Bundles
day.
inflate
This
the total revenue
music
because
talk
people are
for the day.
forced to pay up a bit.
So let's take a canonical example, which would be Vanilla Ice. I would be surprised if most people can name more than one Vanilla Ice song. But Vanilla Ice sold something like 10 million albums on the basis of just one hit song. So $160 million in revenue. Once you liberated the single from the album, that excess income from the compact disc would go away forever. You would only earn a small fraction of what you previously earned. They knew this was going to hurt them.
It's to say as a music fan, but it seems like music is almost disposable now. You would put out an album, what, every 6 years, tour for those 6 years off of that one album, but now having to put out a single, and then 3 singles, and then all of a sudden it's just a string of singles with no cohesion like an album, and really the songs don't have as much meaning to you.
Oh yeah, I'm on early because I'm in here early. I wanted to get some
to the majors
some extra time
we will
playing this
save
game. I ain't gonna lie, I've been having fun.
It was like a
playing
siren
this Fortnite.
There was
so
no choice.
I'm like,
Really,
bruh, let me get in here and play.
There was no choice.
Today, we've got 200,000 tracks.
I'm gonna run some of this back though,
and all
because
of
this was some good
music
talk. right now.
All of these rights you can buy for 99 cents per song.
It's called iTunes.
iTunes online music store.
The iTunes Music Store.
They've really just created, what we've all been waiting for, which is a purely digital music marketplace.
iTunes did spectacularly well. You had that great growth of downloads.
iTunes recently sold its 50 millionth song.
But the deal the industry made with Apple, to me, was a huge mistake.
The unbundling of albums meant that the revenue that came in was significantly diminished.
We were hopeful that the physical product would hold on longer than it did. As it turned out, it didn't.
CD sales have dropped almost 1/4 in just 3 years. That's an awful lot of lost business.
Buyers got very fed up with spending $18 when there's only 1 or 2 songs they like.
This change with iTunes made people so upset that people actually started taking their products off the platform. Estelle had an album that had come out, and the label found out that about 90% of the purchases were just of one song, American Boy. They pulled the entire album off of the platform for 3 weeks before caving in and putting it back on.
Really, they were desperate. And they decided what they would do was go after the end users of the peer-to-peer sites. The average file sharer, John and Jane Download. This was extremely controversial within the record industry. Hillary Rosen, the head of the RIAA, actually resigned with protest.
I didn't want us to go against individuals. Even though they were the source of a huge amount of illegal activity, I felt like ultimately they were still music fans. But essentially, I was kind of overruled. My last day at the RIAA was the day before the litigation against individuals started.
Yesterday,
Boy, I
the
be
music
getting
industry
ghost
took
on them.
another step, first time going after people downloading and swapping music online.
We want people to stop engaging in the theft of music so that people can go on making it.
Which side you on in this?
I don't remember if I got it via letter or
Lalo.
email, but I basically got what looked like a scam from the RIAA saying, you owe us for having downloaded music. I honestly ignored it because I didn't care. And they sent another letter saying I could be sued for up to $30,000 per song, of which there were thousands. I didn't have that much money. I don't think anyone did.
I wasn't ever really worried about getting fined for downloading MP3s, mainly because I was using my mom's computer, and I was kind of so I was like, oh, my mom's gonna get fined, not me. Like, you can't take a 13-year-old's income when he doesn't have any income.
They filed something like 17,000 lawsuits. But rather than going after the big infringers, they ended up suing children and grandmothers and people who were dead and moms.
Vonnie Bassett was shocked to be slapped with a lawsuit for the hundreds of songs her teens downloaded off the internet for free.
My kids go to Catholic school. We brought them up right. No one in our family's been arrested. I mean, we don't steal. We don't steal.
It's just ridiculous. It was absurd. It was absurd.
I'm not downloading anything ever again. I mean, not even screensavers.
Almost everybody was forced to settle, often for a relatively small amount of money, like $3,000 or $4,000. But in the end, this just made people hate them. It didn't create a deterrent effect, it just made them loathed.
You know, I've been an avid record collector for over 40 years. Right. I've got nearly 10,000 records. You turned a music fan into an enemy.
In fact, more people probably went to piracy as a result of this than anything else.
I ended up having to pay, like, I think close to $1,000 to the RIAA But in the end, I ended up recouping my losses by downloading overtime and doubling down.
That's crazy.
Between the piracy and the unbundling, the industry recognized that it was on a decline. And over the course of, 15 years, shrank significantly.
Right.
Industry revenue, I think in '99 was worldwide $34 billion.
Crashed our
and it
whole
fell
industry.
to something like $16 billion.
The industry was just destroyed, annihilated.
A simple dynamic in business, when an industry is under threat, you consolidate, which is a fancier word for cutting costs. You put two big music enterprises together, you can eliminate a whole bunch of jobs.
I'm currently standing in front of what used to be the Virgin Megastore, Union Square. Closed in June of 2009 and is now a Duane Reade and a Citibank.
This building formerly used to be Tower Records. It was the first Tower Records in New York. That window right there where the light is, that floor I worked on, it was the oldie section.
CD sales were dipping since I think like 2000, 2001. That's where the decline really kicked in.
I can't even remember the last time I physically went and bought a CD.
When 2006 happened, it was all over for me. That was the end of it. There wasn't much I could do.
Tower Records may be toppling. The music chain is preparing to file for bankruptcy next week.
When Tower was bought out, a lot of us, the employees that worked there, fell into like a depression. We're like, wow, this is it. The Tower is going to be gone for good.
How do I feel about it? Crappy.
Oh, what happened to my video? Oh, y'all hold on real quick. I missed my train and my video went off. Y'all give me a second. Yeah, I missed my train and the video went off. Let me go hide somewhere. So today we talking about the music industry, the growth of the music industry.
Picture this. Saving up
I done
to
watched
10% when you
two
bundle
different
home
videos
and auto
right now.
Insurance with USAA. Some things just click.
Hey, hold up. Look, I brought a disc and we could copy this.
Okay, no problem. All we gotta do is... Whoa.
Don't copy that floppy. Thieving, stealing, taking what's not yours. Is that really where you want your life to go?
But they can't stop people from copying. It's too easy. It might be easy, but it's still against the law.
Don't copy that floppy.
Around the mid-2000s, post-Napster, music piracy was still a huge problem. At the time, it was all torrents. Everybody had moved to torrents. That's how most people were, sort of young people at least, were getting their music.
Online piracy is costing the U.S. film industry $20 billion a year.
Dang.
Like, don't they know they can download that stuff for free? Use BitTorrent.
The question is, what's the best way to fight the RIAA? Half of them, 98%. Shame on you people.
The music industry was preoccupied with the whole peer-to-peer file transfer, illegal theft. It had to figure out how it was going to attack and approach the marketplace in this new world to be able to remain viable and competitive.
To us, it's black and white. Either you pay for it or you don't. Straight up and down, it's stealing.
Sweden, out of all the countries in the world, had adopted pirate technology more than anywhere else. It was a country full of hackers. They'd come up with all different kind of takes on peer-to-peer networks and BitTorrent, and they had the pirate party. An entire political party that really traces its roots back to Napster. For them, trading music, it's like a political, cultural calling.
The Swedish parts of the music industry, they were suffering even more than maybe their American counterparts. Very few people were buying CDs anymore, or very few people were buying licensed material online. Everyone was using the file sharing networks.
At that time, there was a guy named Daniel Ek, who was Swedish, who had previously been the CEO of a torrent company. And he said, I have a plan to make people pay for music again. We're going to move beyond the locally stored MP3 file into the kind of like globally distributed stream. That was his business model, which he calls Spotify.
That's right.
Instead of having to go through the trouble of buying and downloading music, what if they had access to all the music in the world just through a streaming service?
Spotify launched in Sweden in October 2008.
I didn't even know that came
Spotify
out in
took off
2008.
Sweden, and so Ek was able to go around to different countries and get the labels there to do the same thing, and eventually he came to the U.S.
Exactly.
Daniel's, he's not Steve Jobs. He's very soft-spoken. You can tell that he's kind of a nerdy engineer. He's very polite and easygoing, and for the labels, I think Daniel being not as abrasive and scary and powerful as Steve Jobs was probably pretty attractive. And the thought of him sitting in a room with all these music execs and banging his fist on the table is hard for me to imagine. But he's the one who talks all of these labels into cooperating and giving this service that he made a chance.
Spotify, they presented us with an option. Now, we could say we don't want to use it, we don't want to distribute that way, but we'll be like dinosaurs, and we wouldn't be here.
The mistakes the major record labels made in the late 90s, I will give them credit for this. They learned from those mistakes, and they understood that they had to scramble to get ahead of the next wave of technology.
Europe's
Now my
best
man's
kept
gonna get
secret
you.
is out in the open. Spotify has landed in the USA.
And with 10 million registered users in Europe, it could be a big hit here.
That's
the
right.
unlimited service is ad-free,
That's why
but locked to your
everybody on
computer, while
Spotify.
the premium service brings Spotify to your mobile devices.
You're like, hey, you want to hear this new song? All you have to do is go, boom, it's right there. Wait a minute, everything's here? Like everything?
Just like the first time I used an MP3, I said, oh my God, I'm never gonna pay again. The first time I used Spotify, I was like, I'm gonna pay again, aren't I? And so that's how well it
right.
From
Because you got everything
turn
right
of the
there.
century until 3 or 4 years ago, the music industry had lost around 40% of its entire value.
Physical sales are pretty much over. But streaming's growing, growing, growing.
Next thing you know, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, they all want to have a streaming subscription service.
Good morning. Today we're announcing Apple Music.
Today I'm happy to announce Google Play Music All Access.
Amazon is taking the plunge, diving into an already crowded streaming market with a new subscription music service.
Some big names behind a streaming music service being relaunched now with some help from Jay-Z. He bought Tidal for $56 million in January.
We've reached a point where there are too many streaming options to mention.
Companies ran away from music because there wasn't any growth. Now there is. That's a sign that the industry's becoming healthy, after years of being, really sick. It's just a question of what it means for artists.
For Microsoft, Google, Apple, music doesn't mean something special to them. It's just something that gets bundled along in this monthly fee that you pay for various things, whereas obviously this is the lifeblood for musicians.
Streaming has a lot of business challenges attached to it. The whole notion of micro pennies. You could have hundreds of thousands of streams and you get paid 12 cents.
People can't even tell me what a stream is worth. It just changes from month to month to month to month to month. No one knows how to quantify it.
As far as online streaming, the record companies, they take whatever their percentage is. Everyone gets a cut. What's left of that, we have to split 4 ways and with our manager. So it's literally nothing,
The artists are looking at these 1/10 of a cent royalties and going, that's crazy. Do you know how many times I'm going to have to listen to that song or those groups of songs to be equivalent to what I'd make from an album sale?
Tonight, word of a music smackdown. Taylor Swift is pulling her music off of Spotify, and all of this over pricing. In an editorial, she wrote, "File sharing and streaming have shrunk the numbers of paid album sales drastically. Valuable things should be paid for."
That's all what Taylor Swift just did, and I think that's awesome. I mean, the only person really getting screwed here is the artist, and that's the way it always is.
Why don't they pay Taylor Swift more? Why don't they pay Ari the Rugged Man more? Taylor don't need the money as much as me, but she's got a good point.
Everybody's doing the work, then they need to get paid. It's just that simple. I need my money.
So you had some artists speaking out.
Rihanna released a new single last week. She's one of the partners of Tidal. You can't stream it on Spotify, but you can stream it exclusively on Tidal.
In reality, they're all coming back.
The other week, Taylor Swift decided to once again offer her entire back catalog on Spotify.
With streaming, it's the way that the music industry is going, so we're all going to have to figure out a way to make it work.
When people are bitching they're not making enough money, they have to understand if you're a successful artist today, you can make more money than you've ever made in the history of the music business. There are sponsorships, and you can do ads. In addition, concert revenues exceed by a huge margin what they used to. So you have to look at all the opportunities, not only from these streaming services.
Yeah, you get pennies on the dollar, whatever. Who cares? Go out there and play a show and make money and get out there and do that. Don't complain about an internet streaming service. That's so lame. Cry me a river.
Through this entire period of time, while the recorded music industry's been down, the live music industry's been flourishing. And there's maybe an easy explanation. In a world where we get less and less personal online, the precious thing is seeing it live and experiencing it, because you can't digitize experience.
Exactly.
The digital age makes it a lot easier to scout talent, I would say. We're able to get data and metrics from all sorts of different sites, whether that's Spotify listener data on the publicly available About the Artist page. There's usually about 40% we see of their monthly listeners in a certain city would actually purchase tickets to that show in that city.
I think now your recording is an advertisement for your performance and your live engagement, not the other way around.
Touring. Touring is nonstop revenue all year. That's where all the money comes from. I'll tour till I'm dead. I'll tour till I'm dead.
It shouldn't be that you have to be a touring act. Touring is grueling. We don't want to tour all the time. We're getting older, and it's a lot of hard work being out there doing that. But those are things you have to do.
I think I make the majority of my money from shows. It wasn't always like that, but it's like that now. Merch is probably the next.
I didn't think I'd be a t-shirt merchant when I started making music.
These are socks. These go really quickly, especially at shows.
So this is a raincoat. It has a Hot Sugar Castle.
I have shirts, I have Afro hoodies, I have this Afro shirt right here.
This is a t-shirt, another t-shirt with another picture of me. You cannot, to my knowledge, download a shirt.
This is a front and back hat.
This is Valhalla Java. It's a brand of coffee that Zach Wild created.
I'm telling you, you can clean your house about 5 times, mow the lawn 3 times, even though it's already finished the first time you mow it, and that's before brunch.
And it is one of the best-selling coffees on Amazon.
You have to, as an artist, make products that are sellable because music's not as sellable as it used to be.
Where records had always been by far the majority of the income earned by people who made albums, increasingly artists were making more money from touring, from live events and ticketing and merchandising and reels than they really were earning from their records. Our revenue model didn't make any sense any longer.
Let me ask you something. Y'all want to have some fun tonight?
I was offered really deals in my life. And it got to the point where I hated my label. So I said, hey, I'm gonna run and do this myself. And when I started doing independent records, that's when all my money started coming in. And that's where all my success started coming in. And that's where all of my fans started coming in.
Chance the Rapper has gone from making mixtapes in his Southside Chicago home to winning 3 Grammys and performing for the president at the White House, all without the backing of a single record label.
More artists have been making more music at home and releasing it themselves into streaming services, so it's been a creative renaissance.
We're now going to be rolling out the ability to monetize directly on SoundCloud. We're inviting hundreds of thousands of creators. This means more money in their pocket at the end of the day on a revenue share basis.
Thousands of people are making money off their talents and hobbies with Patreon.
Patreon is a lot like Kickstarter, but it's ongoing. It's per music video I upload.
Bandcamp is this website where artists can independently just take the music that they produce themselves and put it up onto the website.
An artist uploads their music to Bandcamp, a fan pays them directly for it. They take a small cut, it's about half of what iTunes charges.
Bandcamp has become the hero. I think that they are more closely attuned to listening to the needs of musicians and actually meeting those concrete needs. It's better than, I think, virtually any other company that's out there. They've really provided an online record store and a way for artists to recoup money, and I haven't seen any other company try to meet those needs.
If you've got merchandise, if you've got physical CDs, if you've got t-shirts and hats and all sorts of stuff like that, you can sell that directly on the Bandcamp platform as well. Can't do that on Spotify or Apple Music.
Now to another grim milestone, the world surpassing 1 million deaths from the coronavirus.
I don't think we were prepared for the realization that the majority of our livelihood depended on us being on the road all the time and physically being at shows.
Most artists today who are successful are making the majority of their income through live performance.
60, 70, sometimes upwards of 80% of an artist's income is reliant on touring, on merchandise, on this, which is empty.
A little more than a month before they're scheduled to be in California, Variety reports BTS canceled shows in Seoul, Korea due to fear over the spread of the virus.
More than 40% of Canadians wouldn't feel comfortable going to a music event until at least 6 months after social restrictions are lifted.
The shutdown of live shows this year has affected me in so many different ways. I have been turning to live streaming. I'm on Twitch every week. I've built up a nice little community.
Exactly.
I've got a Discord going. I'm doing the
That's
whole
where
thing.
I'm at right now.
Woo! Let go, let go. Look, we about to get it brackin' in this. You just tuned into the latest channel on Twitch.
In a major collaboration that's clearly a sign of times, 12 million players logged into Fortnite last night to watch a virtual Travis Scott perform in concert.
It's great for the artists, it's great for the fans, and that's something I think that you're going to see more of after the pandemic, is people not wanting to just see a show at a venue in a theater, and you'll want to see more and more experiences and less just pure concerts.
Exactly.
Everybody on YouTube, subscribe. Twitch, you subscribe. Facebook, can you like and subscribe too? Let's go!
Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you smash the subscribe button on YouTube.
Thank you guys for
Exactly,
donating.
that's where I'm at
Even
right
if
now.
You didn't have the means to donate. Thank you for tuning in.
I've had a music career just by going straight to consumers and to an audience and fans, rather than waiting for this faceless music industry guy to help pitch it.
You didn't do nothing. I did all the hard work, so why shouldn't I make 100% of that money?
What's up, guys?
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel.
Zoom in.
Exactly.
I want to see you.
So I guess I am doing the
here.
right
I can
thing.
Watch you guys. Interaction is everything for me.
Something that's really unique with live streaming is that you actually get to know the names of your fans and you get to know their personal lives.
Big hearts up for Big Cheese right now.
Yes,
because
sir.
He needs our love,
So I'm
man.
doing
He
the
was-
right thing.
He was down for a little second.
Dude, shout out to Savannah Bebo, Sparky, Miss Winter Falcon. You guys are legends. Legends.
Your fans get to actually chat with you live and give input as far as what they want to hear.
So the revolution will be televised afterward.
But there really is nothing like being on stage with tens of thousands of people in front of you at a festival with the lights and everybody screaming. I just miss it all.
I don't think streaming is the end of the game. I think the game will continue to unfold. You, as a talented artist, you can go make your own recording. You can build your career using social media, and the major labels' role in creating the next generation of successful artists will become less and less important.
We found out that the
Thank
record
y'all.
companies are limited. It's like, okay, you're taking, but what you giving back? You giving me a piece of my soul back to me? Or you just taking my soul and keeping it and cashing it in?
If you've only got a niche audience, it doesn't make sense to sign to a major label.
Right now, more than ever, the law of 1,000 true fans is what we're going to see working as a model going forward. You could have 10 million plays on your song on Spotify, but that doesn't mean that you're going to sell 100 tickets to a show. 1,000 true fans can sustain you if you have the right platforms in place. And that can be anything from Bandcamp to Patreon to Twitch, any of these places that are meant to build community and allow you to have a space
Thank you.
that you control, where you can sell virtually anything about your creative process that you want.
Most people who aren't on a major label want to be. A lot of the DIY guys, once they start to kind of, blow up, they go to the label. The Weeknd is a perfect example. He did these kind of brilliant albums in his bedroom. They got massive radio play after he gave them away for free. But then he went to the major label when the time came.
Labels definitely have a place, but they're not the gatekeepers anymore. You don't
right.
have to sign to a major record label to be successful in the music business anymore, you know, and thank God for that.
Yes.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
The MP3 is now an obsolete technology. By 1998, there were more sophisticated replacements available. But the core of what it did lives on. Whenever you're streaming music via your phone, it's using the same techniques that Brandenburg pioneered back in the 80s.
People are walking around with their internet-connected phones, and they're just listening to music all the time, and it couldn't be easier. So finally, we have this thing that everybody's been talking about literally for 20 years, the celestial jukebox. And people are listening to more music than they ever have in history.
If you go to the roots of the mobile computing revolution, it's based on MP3 piracy.
Dang.
The idea of walking into an Apple store and spending $300 or $400 on a gadget, you had to get primed by the MP3.
I'm gonna be right back.
I got two! Ultimately, I think the MP3 created more value than it destroyed.
Yesterday, Apple reported the largest quarterly profit of any public company in history.
A lot of money was made along the way, just not by the people who used to make it.
The fundamental way that companies make money was completely changed the first time an MP3 was moved from one person to the next. Generations from that point forward have realized access to things is more valuable than owning them. Why own a car when I can call Uber anytime? Why own a second home when I can go to Airbnb? If I can have access and hear any song when I want, why own a CD?
The march of technology is a good thing, not a bad thing. The fact that it uniquely affected us was the way of life, really.
Nowadays, I love to listen to classical music. I love some of the newer music.
What about rap music?
Oh yeah, why not? Talking about MP3, I had the feeling this is not good for the music industry. But in the end, I think it changed for the better.
All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. So our video just finished, and before I go into like another match or anything like that, let me get some music playing too. Excuse me. All right, so before I go into another match, let me talk for a second on this topic right here. So the growth of the music industry, as you can see, came from the technology. I don't want to start nowhere before that, because we all know music in itself comes from our heart and from our spirit. And the way that we go about it is we just kind of do our thing, you know, whether it be beating on a water bucket with a spoon, or, you know, running your hand around the rim of a glass. We just do we do our thing with music, you know. And so I don't think you can really like quantify it prior to the record industry, form of technology that kept coming out consecutively. So like I said, we're going to start at the technology side of things, because the people who were just performing live, yeah, sure, you can quantify that and put it into, but once you started recording it, it's like it's out the window. So I'm gonna chime in on some of what we heard so far. The number one thing is, were people stealing when it was Napster and all of that? Hell yeah, y'all stealing. And now that I look at that time, I'm saying to myself, you know what, that's absolutely correct. It's stealing. Because now that I'm looking at my life and how I've done all of the things I wanted to do intellectually, my intellectual property, I wouldn't want somebody to come in after spending all of that time doing these things and just take it for free. Especially when there ain't no system for me to get it back. That's identity theft right there at its finest. You spend so much time working on a song, working on, you know, a picture, a painting, or, you know, maybe just even playing a game or something like how I'm doing right now, and then for it to come and get taken from you for nothing, and you're expecting something, then I don't agree with that at all. So that is my spill on it. Now, will society ever create a sustainable way for us to compensate the artists, the creators, the whatever there is in society? I think so. Yeah. Because it's coming to a head on a lot of this. I still got to do that Dr. Doom thing. I'm going to try one more time to do it. Now, we can keep growing. What's up, Ash? Thanks for joining. Thanks for liking the live right now. So we can keep on talking about the way that the industry has grown and changed, but with the industry being what it is right now, it's outgrown us as a people. Music is a big bank right now, and it's too big to fail, because we've put everything into music. We've put everything into entertainment. We've put everything into art. Everything is on display right now, and one of those things that cannot fail is the human creativity. The creativity of us as beings cannot fail at this point. And the reason why is because if we lose our creative aspect, then we lose everything. And you know what? I'm going to talk on the AI side of things for a second, because that is where it's going. Now, imagine if I told you creating everything that you've created in your life, you didn't create anything at all. You just accessed another dimension, or you just accessed somewhere else. That would suck. You know? That would kind of make you feel like, oh, well, I did everything, all of this for nothing. And so I think with the AI revolution, and y'all got to follow me. Whoever's watching, Spick, appreciate you for tapping in on TikTok. You about to get a gem for society. Listen, the reason why the AI revolution is happening right now at this point is because it's always been happening, and there has been no difference in the things that have been happening now and happened before. You didn't think of that idea. It came to you, didn't it? In a form of inspiration that you just can't quantify. You didn't write that song. You didn't paint that picture. You didn't create that thing. It just came to you. The greatest things of human society have just floated into the people who did it mind. Well, who's to say that's not you accessing AI? Some form of it. Some form of artificial intelligence. Some form of parallel universe. And that's why AI is such a big thing now. Because it has to be told. Has to be shown. If not, people will keep thinking that they doing this stuff themselves. But hey, that's just my spiel. I'm a madman, so don't take my spill as nothing. Let me get us another video going on in here real quick. But yeah, that's my spill on the music industry and the industries of human existence, period. Creativity is too big to fail right now. So we need something to be creative for eternally. Or we going down. Let's listen to another one though. I don't want to see the devil's puppets. I don't want to hear about how the Jews invented Hollywood. I want to see the evolution of music, though. Now, that's good. Yeah, we staying away from all of that conspiracy, mystical, they doing it for this. We ain't doing none of that. Let me turn my music down. Sorry, y'all. Hopefully I don't get caught in a storm. All right. Is this just a... Hold on. I ain't trying to hear this the whole time. I thought they was going to do some talking. I'm sorry, y'all. All right. Let's see. Why everything got to be... exposure? All I want to know. All right, whatever. We're going to listen to the. We're going to look into the technology of it. I don't want to see all of that right now. Yeah, let's see the history of music technology.
Generate sampler. All right, so let's see what happens.
To your intro. All right, thank you
I like
everyone for
JBA
joining us for this
professional.
webinar, History of Audio Technology, presented by Peter Moses. My name is Laura Lawrence, and I'm the Global Marketing Director at Harman. Just a few things before we get started. Everyone on the call is muted to keep down noise levels during the webinar. However, there is a Q&A function where you can submit questions to the presenter, and he'll try to answer as many questions as possible at the end. The webinar is being recorded, and the link will be made available a few days after the
That just made me feel bad.
We do have a number of other webinars taking place over the next few months for audio, lighting, video, and control, and we'd like to encourage you to take a look at the different webinars in our Learning Sessions workshop series on pro.harman.com. We're adding new sessions daily and have over 20 sessions scheduled for August and September, so watch for those on the calendar. And now I'd like to introduce you to my colleague, Peter Moses, the presenter for today's webinar. Peter is a 20-year veteran of the audio industry with experience in large-scale projects for universities, studios, houses of worship, and mass transit systems, as well as multi-platinum engineering credits with clients such as will.i.am. Now I'll pass it over to you, Peter.
Thank you so much, Laura, and thank you to everyone for attending this webinar. This is something that I've been very passionate about for a long time, and I'm very excited to bring it to you. Before we jump into today's webinar on the history of audio technology, I'd like to take a minute and talk you through why I believe some of the things we're going to touch on today are so important. So if we actually have a look at what we're going to cover in the next half an hour to 45 minutes, it's going to be an understanding of microphones and their evolution. Who were the actual people behind inventing the microphone, and why was there a need for it? Very similar thing with the speaker, both devices, of course, being transducers. Devices that convert one form of energy to another. In addition to that, we're also going to look at recording.
Look at the skeleton. Look at this skeleton.
Things that we take for granted today. Where did that come from? Who were the brains behind this? And
Jack getting down. Jack Sparrow getting down.
Did they achieve the goal of being able to permanently record audio? From there, we look at amplification and how do we actually turn something up? How do we turn it down? And how does that then have an impact on the other components in the signal flow chain? How can we then record something that has been amplified? Did it need a different type of recording medium, or could it use the same one that they were using beforehand? All really interesting points. From there, we look at tape recorders in depth, the story around who invented them, why they were invented, and again, not just the invention, but then the actual advancement of technology through the years. Some really exciting and interesting stories there that take their lead from not only wartime inventions, but also tinkerers such as myself. Not that I invented the tape machine, but again, people who love playing around with soldering irons and components and getting a good understanding of how electron flow can be captured. We then move into processors, things such as dynamic processors. Many of us are very familiar with the term limiter or compressor or even equalizer, but who were the inventors behind this technology and what was the need? Again, we understand that a lot of inventions come from an actual need. So what was the spark? What was the light bulb moment in certain people's heads that allowed them to come up with these devices? We then move into mixing consoles, which takes a large portion of all the early invention stories and dives and puts them into the one melting pot. From there, we look at some really cool stuff, a bit more contemporary, digital audio and digital audio protocols, and we finally finish up with a few historical figures. The goal of today's webinar is to really ensure that at the end of our journey, you have a good understanding of the basic key figures behind some of the innovation that leads to many engineers, live musicians, audio-visual practitioners, broadcasters, and other industries' ability to work in technology that has been invented by certain key figures. A really cool adventure, and I'd like to invite you to now join me as we jump right in. So before we go into the actual story of who, how, what, and why, let's look at some basics. And you can hear a kookaburra going off in the background. I apologize for that. My noise cancelling kookaburra algorithms are currently not plugged in. So we have audio, and the world of audio really is a complex one. It's one that not only interprets acoustic energy, sound, air moving back and forth into electron flow, but it's one that takes a number of different paths where we can amplify, we can store, we can recreate audio. So understanding the basics of what audio is, I feel, is really important. And summarized in a very brief way, audio is represented as electron flow in a number of circuits. It is alternating current electron flow, which means it changes polarity between positive and negative. This is really important to understand because all the inventions we discussed today basically rely on this principle, a really unique feature of what we're talking about. So audio, electron flow actually travels through a conductor, copper cable. Now, anything that can conduct electricity can indeed conduct audio at different speeds, at different quality. For the most part, when we're transmitting audio, electron flow representing audio, we're transmitting it through copper. Copper cables, copper circuitry on a board, all very similar, but all very important in terms of getting audio from A to B. This is really important to understand because if there is a break in the circuitry, if there is a break in the copper trace or in the copper cable, audio does not flow. And if audio does not flow, we are without audio. Now, this is important to understand because in each one of these inventions, there were a lot of struggles, a lot of challenges, especially in the early times of making sure we had good conductors, good copper that was able to transmit electron flow as audio. So when we look at this, we look at some of the key inventors. We look at people that were looking at how do we create sound, which is basically air moving back and forth, into audio. How do we change that energy and how do we then represent it? How do we get electron flow moving along this copper to create audio? And some of the key people in it are on this slide right now. And we're going to delve into that in the coming slides and get a good appreciation of some of the challenges they faced. A really important note about today's presentation is that we're only going to touch on certain key figures, but that does not mean they were the only exclusive people working on it. One of the staples of creativity and innovation is that a lot of times multiple people will be working on technology separate to each other at similar times. So we definitely acknowledge certain key inventors along the way, but understand there are a lot more that we're probably not going to touch on today. When we look at innovation for audio, we basically cut it into three groups. The early group, the transducer technology, taking sound into audio, things such as microphones. We then look at recording, so actually capturing that electron flow, which is magnetic tape, and in later years, digital audio technology. From there, we look at speakers, which again is another form of a transducer. This time, taking audio and reproducing it back into sound, so creating unique air movements once again. And as you'll see in this next slide, it's those unique air movements that basically allow us to build a whole industry and career around. So let's just delve in and have a look at those air movements. When a vibration occurs, sound, as we know, compresses closer together and further apart. Now, when the ear actually hears this, a really cool thing happens. The little hairs within the inner ear, the stereocilia, convert this air movement into electrical-like messages going to the brain. This is how we process sound. This is how, as humans, certain sounds can evoke certain emotions within us. Happiness, sad, being a bit edgy, especially if we're watching a horror movie, or anticipation. So looking at this, understanding the basics now of sound versus audio, sound being acoustic, audio being electrical. let's look at some of the key figures behind putting this technology together and ensuring that we could capture and reproduce sound. One of the early figures in terms of actual transducers, taking air moving back and forth and turning it into audio, was Johann Philipp Reis. And with his Reis telephone in the mid-1800s, he was actually able to create a transducer that took acoustic energy and represented electron flow on the other end. Now, the unique thing about this is while it's widely believed this was the first transducer invented, it's not actually commonly known that although it was a transducer, it could not reproduce actual complex audio waves, what we're used to hearing all around us, be it birds chirping, be it someone speaking, or even a menagerie of different sounds such as drums, music, city lights, traffic, all that stuff. All it could do was basic tones, and we see those basic tones in the red, the blue, and the green waves. So really unique tones that were able to oscillate quite regularly. His transducer was able to convert that energy. But when we look at an actual complex wave, which is the black wave, something that has a really unique attack, decay, sustain, and release, the Reis transducer was actually not adequate to be able to do this. So although this technology was around in the 1850s, the 1860s, we were not actually reproducing something that humans would associate with common audio, common sounds around us. That was then improved on by Mr. Bell. And what Mr. Bell was able to lead us to was a transducer that could now reproduce complex waves. It could understand what was coming in, reproduce that electronically as an electron flow. And from there, we actually had a speaker on the other end giving us a very similar sound to what was being reproduced at the transducer end, the microphone end. Now, what's unique about this is the early inventions around this were all driven around communication. So we're talking about telephone communication systems, we're talking about very, very short lengths of communication, but again, being able to transmit messages from one location to another electronically. So really unique. I dare say that when people such as Reis and Bell were making these innovations, they had absolutely no idea how they would change the world and where they would lead to. Now, an interesting point here is if we jump forward about 30 years, we go to about the 1910 stage, and a young gentleman in the United States of America, James B. Lansing, started experimenting and innovating with his own transducers. And of course, the shirt I wear today and the company I work for, Harman, has a brand that was started on the back of James B. Lansing's innovation, of course being JBL speakers. And James B. Lansing and his story around transducers is a really cool one that we're going to dive into a bit later on in this presentation. As we loop back now, we have a look at the basics and understand that Reis and Bell came up with some really unique innovations around transducers. But at this stage, all you could do was convert acoustic energy, being sound, into electron flow, being audio. There was actually no way to record this. There was no way to capture this and replay it at a later time. So let's just think about that. When we're talking about a piece of music, you actually could not hear a piece of music recorded. The only way to hear a common piece of music was to attend a performance, or perhaps if you were a pianist or a violinist or a musician, you could buy the sheet music and play it at your leisure, learn it and play it at your leisure. There was actually no way to hear recorded audio all the way up until the 1880s, which for me, I feel is still, not too far back in history. So there were many innovations around this time, not only in the US, but also in Germany and the UK, that were looking at how we could capture electron flow and store it and then reproduce it at a later time. The story that really sort of jumps out to me is the story of Thomas Alva Edison. Not only was he responsible for innovations such as the modern light bulb and other electronic innovations, but Edison was also absolutely taken by how we could permanently capture and replay some audio. This led to his innovation of one of the earliest forms of recording, the Edison wax cylinder. Now, the unique thing about the Edison wax cylinder was that a lot of his early innovations were successful. He was actually able to record electron flow as audio. Upon replaying it, what actually happened is his device would ruin the grooves that were created when recording. So he'd end up with replaying something that was perhaps not as accurate as what he had hoped. Over time, he mastered this and came up with the wax cylinder. And the wax cylinder was the first, I would say, commercially available product that allowed us to not only record, but also reproduce audio. And I think that's a really cool invention. In fact, as an audio engineer, I think that my whole career is based on this one innovation as well as others around it. Now, what's unique about this is my favorite photo of Edison. It shows someone who is to some extent frustrated, someone to some extent who has experimented time and time and time again. And we're all very familiar with the famous Edison phrase around innovation. The unique thing about this is that although Edison came up with the wax cylinder, that was the spark that lit off so many other inventions. And they're inventions we're now going to look on. They're inventions that the audio engineering and associated career paths were all built on. So we understand the basics of transducers and their invention story. We understand the basics of recording and that innovation story. But indeed, what then led us to where we are today? Well, it's my belief, having spent perhaps an unhealthy time pondering this over the last decade or two, it was amplification. At this stage, we could not turn the electron flow up. We could not turn the audio up and make it louder. We also could not turn it down and make it softer. That did not happen until the turn of the century, and Dr. Lee DeForest, who is quite a character himself, came up with the Audion valve. Now, Lee DeForest's Audion valve was itself an innovation on earlier technology by people such as Fleming and Edison. It took into account things such as the light bulb and really was a unique invention around how do we add more electron flow to the existing audio path? How do we create a bigger representation of what is already there? And Lee DeForest's adventures led him to come up with this, the Audion valve. Now, the unique thing about the Audion valve is that it would transmit electron flow representing audio through it as alternating current. That electron flow then hit a grid. Now, this grid almost acted like a door that turned on or off, open or close. If the grid closes, no audio passes through. But if the grid is totally open and the heater under the cathode where the electrons sit is totally charged, then it creates an environment within this vacuum where added electrons from the cathode will now jump across the grid onto the plate. That unique phenomenon happening creates larger amounts of electrons flowing through the Audion valve than were present at the input. Because of this, we had more electrons leaving, representing alternating current, representing audio. By controlling this grid, and by something as simple as having a potentiometer, a pot, or what we call a knob, turning and controlling this grid, we then end up with what you see on the screen at the moment. We end up with amplification, the ability to turn audio up, increase electron flow, or indeed turn audio down and decrease electron flow. This is really unique, as this invention late in DeForest's career really cemented him as a global innovator and somebody who contributed greatly to the story of electronics moving forward. Of course, DeForest and his contemporaries' invention was not limited to the world of audio, but again, considering that I'm an audio person and someone that's almost audio mad, if not mad altogether, this is really what we're focusing on today. Now, the unique thing, looking at these slides, we see some of the very early Audion valves and indeed Audion valve circuits. What's unique about this is these circuits were built by hand. These components, a lot of times, were machined by hand. And because of that, in the early times of operating these components, we would get a high failure rate. Because of this, there was a large demand for people who actually understood circuitry and were able to maintain these components as they were being operated. And that was a story that lasted from the turn of the century all the way up until the late 1960s. And it's a theme that we will see revisited time and time again. So before we move a bit further into amplification, let's just look back on some of the key figures. It was not only De Forest's Audion valve, but earlier work by Jack T. Fleming in the UK, and indeed people such as Edison before them, that contributed to this one breakthrough, the ability to control electron flow and add electron flow, the ability to turn things up. So I dare say without these innovators, we would have no classic lines from the movie Spinal Tap. Now, what's unique is from the turn of the century up until about 1950, vacuum tubes, the Audion valve, were the main form of amplification, especially within audio circuits. Something happened though in the 1940s, and that something was three physicists at Bell Laboratories getting together and coming up with the transistor. The transistor changed modern electronics and indeed changed the audio world significantly. How did it do that? Well, similar to the vacuum tube, the transistor also had three key compartments. It had the emitter, the base, and the collector. And using these three components as part of the one device, we had the same principle. We were able to then increase electron flow or decrease electron flow. Instead of jumping over a grid this time, electron flows were making their way through depletion regions within transistors. The unique work of these three physicists at Bell Laboratories earned them a Nobel Prize. So there is no doubt that the significance of this innovation, not only for the audio world, but the external everyday world, was huge. Early transistors looked like something that basically came out of science fiction movies. They were big, they were gelled together, they were unique, they were fused. They were these really cool looking components. And it was
I ain't
not
gonna lie,
long
I've been
before
enjoying
the
this
audio
webinar.
world were able to integrate
Maybe I can give them
transistors
some music
into
in the
their own
background.
designs. The next slide shows the AKG C12, one of the world's most popular microphones, a vacuum tube microphone. The picture to the right of it shows the AKG C414, one of my favorite microphones. And the C414 is not only different in physical size, but also different in the way it's made up. And of course, that difference is it uses a transistor as opposed to the vacuum tube. The fact that it uses a transistor means that physically,
Hey, shout out to everybody who joined on TikTok. I'm about to slide over to 2K right now. I know it's a Fortnite, but I'm about to hop on some 2K for a second.
I don't think we've got time to get into the positives and negatives of transistors versus vacuum tubes.
So what he's talking about in this webinar is the history of audio technology. Now, just imagine one of your favorite singers, your favorite artist that raps or something like that. Imagine they didn't have access to this technology. How would you have access to them? So right now I'm using this podcast, whatever you want to call it, the Rode podcast box, right? And then I'm using this microphone right here as well to talk into. Imagine if this technology didn't exist. You'd have to go backwards from there and say, well, I couldn't do this. So that right there is the reason why I have this bit of the webinar playing. I'm gonna actually go ahead and switch it off now. But that's why I wanted to play just a little bit about the actual technology aspect of the audio. I didn't want to just keep it in, oh, well, the music industry. Well, the music industry is built off of technology that makes it possible for sound to be captured and sound to be put into your house, your home, your car, and all of the above. So yeah. Hold on, let me see something real quick. I'm pretty sure they got some new moves for me in here. All right. Let's see what Lonzo Ball talking about. I can't use the Trae Young. Let's try AI. All right, so let me get something else playing in here. All right. Let's talk. Let's see if somebody else got something else to say. Let's see how to make money in the music industry.
This film is about the evolution of the music business.
Let's check this out.
The industry has gone digital, with streaming now reigning supreme. Social media apps can seemingly blow up a song overnight. And with the COVID-19 pandemic shutting down live music venues worldwide, concerts have even gone virtual. But music industry revenues reached an all-time high in 2020. So who is cashing out? Record labels or the artists? I'm Don Newkirk, and I'm a filmmaker with the Financial Times. I also manage and direct music videos with my cousin, the artist Dirty Blonde. And since 2018, I've been documenting his journey to make a name for himself and earn a living as an artist in the music industry. Along that journey, I traveled the country, talking to some of the world's biggest music companies, record labels, producers, and artists to find out what all these changes mean for the future of the music business and how today's artists are making it and making money.
The industry treats artists too much like a commodity and not as a person.
Artists are starting to understand what rights they want to retain.
The whole world wants to be in the music industry now. You can be almost homeless to going to making just so much money you can't even keep up with.
Shit, everybody should be making money.
My name is Dirty Blonde. I'm a recording artist and record producer. I'm from upstate New York. I've been trying to make it in the industry for about 2 years now. I think my music is so personal and so genuine and pure that I think that my music really speaks to the people. It's about love, it's about heartbreak, it's about soul, it's about real life. I think that a lot of people can identify with that and understand me, and I think it would just be so pure and genuine, and people will automatically just cling to it and want to hear more and like me and understand me. That's what I'm praying for. And for me, it's if I can pay my bills and I'm all right at the end of the day, then to me, I've successfully made it.
For most artists, getting a record deal has been a clear sign that you've officially made it. So you might be surprised to hear from major artists themselves that making it hasn't always meant making money.
Right.
When TLC won 2 Grammy Awards in 1996, they were the world's biggest selling female music group, but they were also broke.
We are the biggest selling female group ever. 10 million albums worldwide. We have worked very hard. We have been in this business for 5 years. And we are broke as broke can be. As broke can be.
Artist deals in the 90s were incredibly, and still are incredibly complex. A lot of times those deals will be not in the artist's favor because of the way that they're structured. They were quite simply, old school record deals were simply bank loans at the highest rate imaginable.
Traditionally, an advance was only recoupable from an artist's share of the music sales. But as record labels began to lose revenue from declining physical album sales and online piracy, they began offering artists 360 deals. A 360 deal allows the label to recoup that advance from the artist not only from music sales and streaming revenue, but also from all other streams of income for the artist, including touring revenue, merch, sync licensing, publishing, and endorsements.
It's essentially like indentured labor, where 9 times out of 10, the artist will remain in debt to the record label for the initial upfront advance that the record label paid them and they never paid off. And they remain tied to that record label with relatively small degree of control over their commercial approach and marketing approach, and no ownership of the copyright.
So if a record label gives you a $1 million deal, what does that actually mean? It's really an advance on future royalties, meaning it must be paid back to the label from revenue you earn after you make the music. So let's say you've negotiated an 80-20 split on the royalties. That means your music would need to generate $5 million in revenue in order to fully recoup the $1 million advance owed back to the record label. Then you can start collecting your 20% share of the revenue. Now every deal is different, but you're probably signing away ownership of your copyright or master recordings to the label. Typically, that $1 million advance is often used by artists to budget for things like studio time, album features, music videos, marketing, lawyer and manager fees, and their everyday living expenses. From Prince to Kanye and Taylor Swift, many artists have tried to fight back against their record contracts, particularly if they've signed away ownership of their masters. But labels say they're taking a big gamble when they invest in an artist.
You made $1, but you spent $2 to make that dollar. So you owe somebody $1. So you might make the decision, I want to fly first class. Hey, I want to shoot a $50,000 video instead of $25,000 video, or a $200,000 video instead of a $50,000 video. These are all choices that are made constantly. And it's you got to look at the business model and see what works.
I think the fact that record labels are getting the bulk of the revenue reflects the fact that they're actually making a big investment up front in artists' careers, and essentially they're taking on most of the risk.
If you were to go to a bank and you never had a job before, and you tried to get a loan, and so I'm co-signing for a loan, number one, and number two, I'm also a strategic partner to help you scale your business. If you and I walk into a room, you'll get more walking into a room with me than without me.
Oh, bitch, I'ma make it. I don't gotta say shit. You gon' see me everywhere that you go.
This makes sense though, because how do you form a professional person or a professional business off of doing this?
2019, Dirty Blonde attended his first A&R meeting at record label 300 Entertainment.
I guess. How do you pitch this? You can sell clothes. You can sell shoes.
Listening to him, seeing how much he loved his own music.
Since I started, I've been doing a lot of emo, like emotional trap music, and I kind of got tired of it because I feel like a lot of people were doing it, so I kind of switched it up, and
people just
I
doing
got inspired
anything.
by Michael, Rick James,
I can't lie.
Marvin Gaye, and
I can't lie. It's
plugged around some disco. So his next song is called.
I'm not gonna lie. For me, a lot of this is that's why I like looking at the technology side of it. A lot of it to me is just we lost in the sauce. We so lost in the sauce that we don't know what we searching for to get out of it. And that sucks. It sucks because you got people searching their heart for stuff to do to use this technology. Well, what if we not supposed to use this technology in that way? What if you're calling, I don't know, I can't get too far on that, but I'll tell you this, the technology will always be the technology. Now the use of the technology could be anything. All right. You got a microphone just sitting there. You could talk on it just as well as you could sing. You could use it to capture all the sounds outside your house and never sing on it. Never talk on it. So you take and you do with that as you wish, as you see this young man get his record deal.
80s baby.
Between baggy jeans and 80s baby is so dramatic for me, just like universe-wise, that it's a little jarring. And I feel like, especially in the like come up portion, it's important to just be like fucking hyper focused on exactly who and what you are. And you might be both, but doing both when people aren't aware of you and bought into you makes it difficult to keep both like locked. You want to have one locked so that when you do grow, you have a place to grow, because the 80s baby stuff is obviously bigger, like world-wise.
The power of social media, along with the meteoric rise of music streaming, has given artists more leverage and more options in the deals they sign. They can remain fully independent, they can sign a traditional deal, or they can partner with a label or distribution company, offering label services in exchange for a portion of the profits, while retaining ownership of their masters. In February 2020, I traveled to Vancouver, Canada, to speak with Shane Gill, head of Opposition Records, about these new types of deals.
Today, an artist doesn't really need a huge budget or advance to actually make the music. So it's just a bit unfair for a label to come in and take ownership of that music. We let the artist control and own their art. Some artists, we just work with them on a specific area. So like 21 Savage, for example, we just work on building his YouTube channel. But other artists, we're much more deeper in working with them on a full like label deal or distribution deal, where we handle every aspect of their streaming and marketing.
One of Opposition's high-profile signings is the super producer Zaytoven, also known as the godfather of trap music. We caught up with him in LA, promoting his new single with Lil Keith and Lil Yachty, ahead of his concert with Chief Keef at Rolling Loud.
If you're working with a label, it just makes everything that much bigger. You know what I mean? It can blow you up that much more. As an artist, I feel like I would need a label to make sure the marketing is a certain place, you know, at a certain plateau where it's like, okay, they're gonna blow me up bigger than what I am. I know where I need help. I know areas like I need help in. So right now they just, you know, they treat me like a young artist and put me in front of the right people and, you know, things of that nature. So it helped me stay young.
We usually just do, you know, a multi-year license where we'll have rights to the track while we're marketing it, and then the ownership goes back to the artist. And the majority of the revenue share will be going to the artists in every deal we do.
When you create a song that you know that somebody's single, like I did with Too Much Sauce, oh, that's gonna be
No, I just said Lost in the Sauce.
Single. It's not about the upfront money for me, because I know it's gonna spin on the radio so much that when my BMI checks come, it's gonna be, you know, 100,000, 200,000.
BMI is a performing rights organization, or a PRO.
Yep,
PROs collect and distribute publishing royalties to songwriters and copyright owners for the public performances of their songs. So when a song is played on a radio, on Pandora, or in a public venue like a restaurant or nightclub, a royalty must be paid. This can provide a continuous stream of income to the artist or record label, long after the artist has stopped making music.
Oftentimes, the first meeting a songwriter might ever have when they decide to become a songwriter and actually have a career in songwriting is their meeting with BMI. BMI is the largest performing rights organization in the world, and we act as the connector, the bridge between creators of music and the businesses that use their music. There is typically an agreement among the songwriters as to what the splits will be. We don't really do anything other than take that information into our systems so we can process the proper royalties on the back end. We announced last year that we generated $1.3 billion in revenue. Streaming services are just another one of those additional services, additional media that we have really been incredibly focused on, and it's changed the music industry completely.
Well, the COVID-19 pandemic has wreaked havoc on several industries worldwide. In the U.S., music industry revenues reached an all-time high of $12.2 billion in 2020, up 9.2% from 2019, with an overwhelming 83% of that revenue coming from streaming services like Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, and more. There are now more than 50 million tracks available on Spotify alone, and over 40,000 new tracks being uploaded daily. So what does this massive increase in streaming mean for artists, and how are they capitalizing?
The industry is growing very, very fast. If you think about streaming revenue, it's growing at about 30% a year. If you're an emerging artist who doesn't have an established fan base or name but's trying to break into the business, you can come onto the platform through distributors even without a record label deal. It's a lot of opportunity, but you got to fight for your share.
We have a new music submission tool that we rolled out, which is open to major labels, much like independent artists, where everyone submits their songs that they want to put up for playlisting. You can access it through Spotify for Artists. When we do our job right, we put the right song in front of the right people, and it just takes off.
Mm-hmm. Nobody don't want to hear that shit.
My newest single, TikTok, was put on Fresh Finds Spotify editorial playlist and also Fresh Finds Hip Hop. It not only helped the song that was on the playlist, it also made my other songs go up a lot too, and new people find who you are and follow you as an artist on Instagram, Twitter, whatever.
I would suggest to all the youth that are out there and that are watching or listening to me right now, don't grow up to be a music artist solely. Be a scientist, be an engineer, be an author, a doctor, a biologist, a botanist, a chemist, a pilot, a co-pilot, a nurse, an administrator, a teacher, a firefighter, police, military, sergeant, command sergeant, major. Don't grow up to be a rapper or a music artist solely. Please. Okay. So now we on. This is expansion pack right now. If y'all didn't know, we got it popping as always. Let me send out some text messages. Maybe nobody realized I was on and been doing this the whole time. So you know what? I don't want to tell nobody nothing. If you're not in here with me watching this, then you're missing out, really, to be honest with you. Because I'm getting some real growth from listening to this, what I've been listening to. So today's topic is the growth of the music industry. And every Tuesday we always do something music related. And so the reason why I wanted to do the growth of the music industry today is because it's more than just the growth of an industry that we talking about here. This is the industry of human development right here. You can take sports and you look at sports. We just had the Olympics. There wasn't one Olympic event that wasn't covered on TV or some entertainment network. So that entertainment network or that network for it to be broadcast on would not have been created if there was not a need for human creativity or for our existence to just, while we're here, we got to create something. So the industry of creation is the industry for human existence. So I wanted to cover the music side of it specifically because it's like one of the big banks of creativity, if you ask me. And there's many aspects and genres of creativity that we can speak about, but we're going to talk about music. And the music industry was created first and foremost from the need for people to have that expression inside of that rhythmic expression inside of themselves. I think I am gonna send out at least one text message. Here we go. I'll send out at least that text message. Just to let my loyal followers and whatnot know that I'm on. So like I said, the technology of it is what allow for people that you know, like Kanye West, like Taylor Swift, like Beyonce. That's what allowed them to do what it is that they're doing now. Excuse me. Without the technology, what could they do? They can go perform on a stage for people, and I'm sure that it would reach thousands of people. They are so electric. But without that industry, that it can really get inside your house and your home and your car and every aspect of your life, there is no Beyonce as we know her, or Taylor Swift as we know her, or any other artist that we know that are music artists. There's none of that. So we have to pay the proper respect to the root of it, which is the technology, and then we grow out from there. So I'm gonna go ahead and let the video keep playing, but I stopped it to say young people don't grow up to be a music artist solely. Like, have that, don't grow up to be anything solely. Have everything be a means to gathering more experience and more characteristics to add to your person and your personality. All right. That being said, I'm done.
Artists earn revenue based on the number of streams. So to the extent that a playlist boosts the amount of streams that an artist gets, it's good for them from a revenue perspective as well.
I'm Mitch Glazier. I'm the chairman and CEO of the Recording Industry Association of America, the RIAA. We collect revenue numbers directly from all of the record companies. So to reach gold, an artist needs to achieve 500,000 sales and streams based on revenue. It's a revenue-based system, not just a number of streams-based system. And then for platinum, it's 1 million. And then multi-platinum up to 10 million, which is diamond. It's very, very difficult to make it. But once you get a gold record, if you're an artist and you get a gold record, you never forget that day. That's the day when you're on the path to succeeding as an artist.
So how much is Dirty Blonde earning from streaming? According to his revenue statement, for the third quarter of 2020, he got around 27,000 streams on Spotify, and he got paid just under $72 for those streams. Doing the math, that's 0.27 cents per stream. On the TikTok app, he earned slightly more money from slightly fewer streams. Apple Music paid him just under ½ cent per stream. At this rate, for Dirty Blonde to earn New York City's minimum wage of $15 per hour, or $31,200 for the year, he would need to get over 13 million streams across the various streaming platforms and social media apps.
I understand
Thank y'all
how it works.
for that.
I understand that I'm not going to be making money like that off streaming right now as a small artist. But on the other side, I think that music is so precious and so valuable. Like 0.003 cents. Like, I think that is like a disgusting number, but at the same time, like I said, there's so many artists where it has to be that low.
So a lot of people are kind of curious how you split the money that's made in this industry. The way you do it, you can think of as a giant swimming pool, right? There's basically a percentage of the money that's always going to the streaming services, a percentage that's going to the songwriters that the publishers represent, and a percentage that goes to the labels that represent the artists. The more water there is in the pool, you're still splitting basically the same percentages.
It is not easy to make money, to make a living as an artist. That's just the reality. You know, streaming
Everybody
doesn't
know it too.
pay,
It's funny.
A whole lot. Once you realize how much you're getting per stream, and you realize, okay, this may not be, you know, helping fund my entire career, helping me get rich next month. All right, now I got to figure out where to take this.
And with streaming, you start to get lots of rich data. Tools like Spotify for Artists is the mechanism that we share the data with the artists and really put that data in their hands to make good decisions with. What's the value of being on a streaming service? In part, it's the direct economics that you earn as an artist. But a lot of it is also about getting your name out there, becoming aware, and then being able to drive kind of the fans to your events and being able to drive merchandising and endorsements and all the things that are part of becoming a real successful artist.
In April of 2019, Dirty Blonde performed his first ticketed show on stage at SOB's, a legendary New York City concert venue often considered a rite of passage for emerging artists.
It's an honor for my first show to be at SOB's. Like, it's crazy to me, but I'm excited. Like, I'm ready. I'm nervous at all. You know what I'm saying? I was made for this.
I guess.
For many artists, live shows have been a vital source of income in their careers. It means not only revenue from ticket sales, but also a way to build your fan base. To find out more, we traveled to Los Angeles to speak with Tarek Sharif, co-founder of Rolling Loud, the largest hip-hop music festival in the world.
Well, we got Lil Uzi Vert coming up next. Y'all ready for that?
That's what's up.
Let's do it.
We kind of help artists launch their careers before you're even able to tour. We give you an opportunity. You might be good for like 1,000 tickets in the market, like Miami or LA or wherever we're doing the show, but all of a sudden you're performing in front of 60,000 or however many people are there. That's a huge boost, you know? The majority of artists, period, are signed to standard recording contracts where they go from making 100% of their music to making 18% of their music, and that stands behind recoupment, and they're basically not making money off music. They get an advance. Some artists that are savvy with their advance and make it stretch, other artists blow it. And then you find yourself in a situation that you're standing behind your recoup, so you're not able to make money on your music, so touring becomes big. You could benefit from performing in front of 80,000 people. It's a nice check, and it's growing your fan base for you to then be able to return to that market after your next album, after the festival, and tour it on a hard ticket show, maybe multiple hard ticket shows depending on your size, and build your career.
Not long after this interview, the world was hit with the coronavirus pandemic, and the music industry was not immune. COVID-19 stopped touring, shows, and festivals completely. So how have artists survived?
Constantly creating content.
Oh, they about to start talking about Twitch.
A way to try to continue
and
to drive
everything
interest
else.
and awareness that ultimately leads to other things that drive revenue.
If you look to the east, if you look to, say, streaming music services in China, they monetize fandom. The majority of the revenues are not coming from the actual music subscription, but they're coming from things like live streaming.
Before COVID happened, I was about to do a festival, but because of the virus, it got shut down. So now I'm doing a virtual live performance with eMusic Live. It's just a new way of entertainment. It's a new way of revenue too, as an artist, you know. I think it's very important for
what's up, Zanita67?
I think it's something
I
that
think
will
you
not
really
only
gonna enjoy
be
this talk
important
too.
right now, but also when things get back to normal, or whatever normal is, I think virtual performance will still thrive and still be a thing.
Married to the money and I pray we never part. When you get money, notice how they start to talk. Pray I'm never lonely and I pray I hit the top.
With the majority of artists being unable to perform live, the pandemic has focused minds on streaming revenue and whether artists are getting their fair share. It also comes at a time when more and more artists are choosing to go independent. In fact, independent artists represent the fastest growing sector in the global recorded music industry. Artists direct grew by over 34% during the pandemic to bring in $1.2 billion in revenue, growing their market share by over a point to 5.1%. So, are artists better off remaining independent, signing a record deal, or something in between?
What's the right choice for an artist? It's kind of up for the artist to decide, right? I think today artists probably have more choices, and so it's hard, whereas in the past it was simple. You really had one path, which was through a major
label.
And I believe that artists should do whatever deal is best for them. Some artists don't need a lot of money. They need guidance.
Because the labels are so flush
Appreciate
with cash
everybody
right
for
now
joining
from
on TikTok.
streaming, as they compete with each other for talent, they're also driving up the price of signing talent. All that means that artists are really in a better position to negotiate contracts, and they can now command bigger advances, better terms like higher royalty rates, or even ownership of their masters. So the label is just acting as a distributor.
Songwriters and composers aren't simply reliant on one source of revenue. in a way that they had been in the past, or even just a few.
How do you think about creating content that you can monetize? Sure, you can monetize YouTube, but you can also monetize Twitch. Why are you not going on Twitch and figuring out how to engage with people there? It's not just gamers
There you
anymore.
go.
There's never been a better time to be a recording artist. You've got more optionality, more choice, more control over your rights, more control over your career, more access to your fans than has ever been the case before.
A song breaks on TikTok, and literally within days, it's in the top of the charts, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, all the other services, right? So there's revenue to be made on TikTok, but I think the kind of dual prong here is if you can blow up on TikTok, you're going to end up blowing up on all these other platforms as well.
It's important for independents to think about their music as a way to, connect many other pieces of the puzzle.
It takes a lot of things aligning in the right way,
and
it's a lot of hard work. And
it is.
It's, I genuinely believe that being an artist is the hardest job in the world. You put yourself out there over and over again, and a lot of things have to go right, and a lot of people have to support you.
If we look forward to the next 5 years, yes, streaming revenue will slow.
You know what? I know what I'm gonna do after this video.
Will have some negative impact. Live is going to be in difficulty, but there is going to be huge change and innovation that's going to happen in terms of the business models, in terms of what music companies look like, in terms of how artists make their careers. And what we may do looking back 5 years from now is say that actually the coronavirus period acted as a change agent. It was a catalyst for developments which had already started to really start to accelerate. And maybe the one meta trend out of all of it is that artists will come out of it on top.
One thing's for certain, today's artists need to be business savvy. That means not just making music, but also handling do-it-yourself marketing and promotion and capitalizing on multiple revenue streams.
I've learned that it's not just about music, it's about business too. As an artist, you are the business. Like JC said, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. It's different ways to make money. I think as a smaller artist, it's about the hustle.
As for Dirty Blonde, he has signed a deal. Not a traditional record deal, but a distribution deal with EQ Distro, an independent music distribution company under Jay-Z's Rock Nation umbrella. And while there's no big upfront advance involved, he does get to keep ownership rights of his masters and 85% of his royalty revenue. Will those rights earn him any money? The journey continues.
All right. So I want to talk for a few minutes just about hey, the Congolese selling weed to survive. That's what's up. So I want to talk just a second about what is going on in the industry for a whole. Now, we all have ideas. If you are alive and you are a human being right now, you have ideas. And you use those ideas every day to fulfill what it is you want to do. They are your desires. And so those desires that you want to feel can either be filled comfortably or uncomfortably. And I think everyone chooses comfort unless we learned uncomfortable as comfort. Now, what I'm getting to is the industry has taken that machine inside of you and capitalized off every single idea coming out of it, every single notion coming out of it, every single thought coming out of it. And that's for all of us, whether you are the architect who just want to build buildings or the shoe designer who's making shoes. We all have filled this pot to the brim and it's overflowing with ideas and thoughts and creations. And so the industry's job is to make these things come to fruition, come to light, to manifest. And that's what the industry is. So let me break it down again for you. So you got an idea in your mind. The industry is going to make that idea happen, whether it be a cake you want to make in the kitchen and you got an idea for the recipe. You go into the kitchen. The kitchen would be your industry right there. The idea is in here. The industry that is going to produce it is the kitchen. Boom. You get it done, and the cake is out of your... I'm told to just sit here. I guess I got to just sit here and keep talking since 2K. So like I said, so let's take music, for example. Well, let's go to the music. So you have a song, an idea for a song in your mind. The industry that is going to produce that song idea is the music industry. And it has all the tools that you need. And so when you take that and you look at it, we are these industries. You got Sally down there in the mailroom. You got Bob upstairs. I don't know. He doing building maintenance. And then you got Jim downstairs on security for the building. And all of these people are making sure that Beyonce's album drops. Guarantee it. If Jim, I don't know if I'm gonna say the names right again, but if Jim lets somebody in the building that he ain't supposed to let in the building, they could potentially mess up the product that's being created in the building, and so on and so forth. So we are these industries. We are the kitchen. We are the record labels. We are the shoe factories. We are these places. We don't. That's deep. So the next step in human evolution will be to remove us from these industries, because maybe, just maybe, now I can't give you no plot twist or nothing. I'm just saying this for effect of the message I'm trying to deliver. Now I can't say we gonna be off on Jupiter using our mind for better things or going on leisurely vacations every other weekend just because a robot can do it. But what I will say is it is an opportunity for you to use your greater capacity of mind, space, and creative potential to do something to upgrade yourself. What's up, O? Good to have you in here. So we talking about the music industry right now. Well, today, the growth of the music industry. And what I've been saying is just that we are these industries. So now, the reason to bring it all home, the reason why I'm even mentioning that we are these industries is because I don't think that a lot of us are connecting the dot. We ain't connecting the dot, and that's why we failing every single time. Your idea, it fails every single time to reach the people that you wanted to reach, or to get the attention and garner or make the change that you've been wanting it to make. The reason why it's failing is because there's a part missing. If you realize that we are the industry, each and every single one of us, then you can get into the process a lot easier. Now, if you look and visualize as the industry being something fantasy land out there, or some big company doing something that is so fantastic out there, then you lose your ability to get in there. Because every time you get in there, it's going to be somewhere else. It's going to be done moved again. So let's look at it like this. You jumping from place to place. And every time you come down the lane, it moves. So you jump again, and it moves. And so you jump again. And so let me put this thing into perspective. Any industry, anything that you want to do in your mind right now, let me put this thing into perspective for y'all, whoever's watching. You consume it first. You use it first. Never ending, ceaselessly, if that's a word. Never cease on how much you use your own idea that you're creating. Now, when you do that, you're already in the industry right there with that. You've taken your first step. Now, let's say I like my clothes that I make. I wear my clothes that I make. That's the industry. And so for some people, that's why, and this is going to sum up a lot of examples of things that you see happening. You may see that person wearing their clothes. They're in the industry. they may not need to go any further than that. They just like wearing their clothes, and they might make a shirt for you sometimes, but they keep telling you, nah, that's not what I want to do. I give you this one, but I don't want to make another one or do this all the time. I'm like that with beats. I like to make beats, but I'm not. That's the industry right there. I'm in my industry with making beats. I am the industry, and that's as far as it goes. I have an idea for a beat. I get into the industry of making it, and that's it. So then you have people who want to make clothes, and then they like wearing their clothes. So they're in the industry now. Someone sees them wearing their clothes now, and they want some of the clothes. So now they're even deeper into the industry. Notice I didn't say that when they sell their clothes or they give it to someone else or someone else likes it, that you're in the industry, or you done sold 100,000 shirts and you got a factory full of them in a warehouse and and you're in the industry. No. You're in the industry the moment you start to consume or to make, not consume. You're in the industry the moment you start to make whatever idea you have in your mind. You want to build a sandcastle. You're going to get in the industry of making the sandcastle just by making it. All right. Now we can look up definitions. We can run this thing down all the way, but I just wanted to give a tip on how you could break into larger or get deeper into any industry you want just by simply putting it on yourself, consuming it yourself, using it yourself, or even creating it. You're trying to fill a need is what it is, or a desire. So once you feel that desire, or as you're feeling that desire, that process of feeling that desire, that is the industry. So now I'm going to close the app because I don't want to just sit here and look at the screen. All right, so now that I done said all of that, let's go back to the music industry. So I wanted to be a big music person. I wanted to make music that everybody sang and that everybody loved. And one thing that I did was I would go places, or one thing I used to do was I'd go places and I'd look around and be like, man, next time when I'm walking through here and they know my music, they gonna be like, oh, there you go. That's one thing I used to fantasize and visualize about when I was younger. And the reason why is because that was one of the things that I felt came along with, you making music, or you being a music star or whatever. I never realized, I realize it now, that the same people that I wanted to react to me that way, I could just go talk to them. And they might react to me in that way just from me being me and talking to them. I realize that now because that is the industry. So I'm gonna give you the most drastic example I got, and then I'm gonna pick another. I'm gonna do something different with this whole music industry thing. I want to show some examples. So hold on, what was I just saying? I wish I could rewind it because I realized I was watching this and I realized I do that. So let me go to me talking to somebody as opposed to them hearing. Oh, I'm gonna use that's what I was at. I'm gonna give you the most drastic example that I have. So during COVID, we had to come up with these classes that we would talk about different things. And one of the classes that they came up with was about suicide prevention. And so with suicide prevention, you would imagine that's a tough class to teach, talk about, or whatever in itself anyway. Now, the point I want y'all to focus on is, imagine somebody is thinking about, or somebody might consider removing themselves from here, committing suicide. how would you ask them that? How would you talk to them about that? What would you say to them to get the information out of them? If you can't come up with nothing, or if you can come up with something, it doesn't matter. The prerequisite for it, or for the conversation anyway, is how do you interact with them before? How have you interacted with them in the past? Have you ever had a conversation with this person? And that is one of the things that I spoke about in the class. I'm like, well, if you ain't never said good day to me, if you've never, asked me about my family, if you've never had a personal conversation with me outside of hi and bye, why would I ever tell you if I'm going to kill myself or if I'm going to commit suicide? Or maybe I might. It's a 50-50 chance. It's a double-edged sword, because maybe you might just be that person that's random enough or that is far enough removed from the situation that I might feel like I can express it to you. But that would signify a sort of I'm not going to do it effect. So I might want you to prevent me, or I might just want to talk to somebody about it. But if we've never had that conversation or any conversation before, why would I talk to you about it? And so for me, that was so significant in that class, because it was like, well, if y'all we can't come up with these narratives without first addressing the fact that this is someone close to you that you care about and that you are invested in. So I use that example because that's the most drastic example I have for getting into. Now, the industry is us, like I said. And if you can't even break the barrier with people, then you will never get in. That's why they call in songs, they have the hook. That's why in conversation there are icebreaker questions. If you can't get if you can't get past the outer shell of a person, then you can't get anything. You will never go further than that. So if you crack that outer shell of yourself, which you are yourself, then you can break into these industries. So let me get something else queued up before the game start. I say that because we want to sell things, we want to do things, we want to have all of this, but you're not looking at the fact that can you supply it for yourself? Are you doing these things for yourself before you ever try to do it for anybody else? All right, now I did want to play some music, some music for us to listen to. I think I will. Forget it. This is my story in music. My last story in music. I want to play the clean version. Hold on. Well, you know what? Since I can't focus on
this
that,
film is about the evolution of the music business.
Let's listen to Yo Gotti.
If you have a love of languages, you may want to consider a career in the Navy.
As a cryptologic technician interpreter in the Navy, you can travel the world, learn languages, and experience other cultures.
CTI linguists provide intelligence for...
Here with Mario Mims.
All right, let's go.
AKA Yo Gotti, the CEO of CMG
Oh,
Records.
Mario Mims.
Happy holidays, man. I appreciate the time.
Likewise.
Thank you, man, for allowing us into
This Yo Gotti.
one of your many homes around the world. I don't want to get a location, right? One of your many homes around the world, man. So, all the success, man. You know, you're CEO of a record label. Do you feel it? Like it's 2023 as we move into 2024. How you feeling?
I mean, I feel good. I feel good about it. You know, I'm trying more and more to take it in the moment. You know, that's been one of my hardest challenges, I think, being a hustler. Because you're always trying to get to the next level. You're always trying to overdo what you've done before. You're always trying to keep what you built on track, or to scale it to a bigger magnitude. So sometimes you don't get to.
I don't know if y'all know who Yo Gotti is, but
and enjoy it. And
some of y'all
live
will.
with it in the moment. So that's been one of my challenges. That I look back at pictures and I look back at videos years later and realize they're like, oh, that was a dope accomplishment. That was a dope moment. But in the time, it was just another thing.
He was just doing it in the middle of it. Yeah.
It was just another thing that I knew we had to knock down to keep going.
Yeah. You come well regarded. I mean, Sean Jay-Z Carter speaks very highly of you, right? I mean, Steve Stout speaks very highly of you. I can't find a person that says anything bad about Yo Gotti, and they always say how smart you are, how focused you are, and a lot to get into about your business personality and all that. But I also want to start here, right? Because in 2004, you said something interesting, and I'm gonna read it. You said rap is 90% business, 10% talent. We got talent, and the business is about staying around for a long time, working hard. That's what I came to do. That was back in 2004. Here we are going into 2024. That's 20 years ago.
20 years.
As you sit here 20 years ago and you hear those words that you said in 2004, I mean, now you can feel it, right? You can say, God, look, we're in your crib, man. Look at this. This is amazing.
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
Does it feel like 20 years?
Nah. It don't feel like 20 years again. Like when you actively in it and you're not taking breaks and I don't really take vacations. I don't like everything is, even when you see me out the country, I'm still working on something. I'm still doing something. I'm making the trip multi-purpose. You know what I'm saying? So I'm never, and when I say vacation, I mean like mentally, meaning where I put the phones away. I'm not taking calls. I'm not looking at emails. It never happened since I started hustling.
That's why you gotta take a cruise. Right? I love cruises.
I took a cruise once, but
no Wi-Fi.
Oh, you can buy a package.
I know you can, but that's the
you can buy a Wi-Fi package. I was on the laptop, checking in on the business. You know what I'm saying?
You gotta sit back and relax.
Yeah, I only been on one cruise. It was dope. I went on the Disney cruise with my kids.
Nice. I want to do that Disney cruise. I did the Royal Caribbean, but it was to the Bahamas. It was nice. No Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I had Wi-Fi now.
I know you did. I know you did. Yeah, I know you did. When you think about all the things, again, 20 years ago you said those words. It's fair to say you've reached your business objectives, right? Again, beautiful crib, right? I see a studio, right? You got a table right here, right?
Yeah.
And so you're so hardworking, but again, the thing that you hear about you the most is how smart you are. How do you process information? Because even when you called me that Saturday, and I'm gonna tell you about that dude, it was I was like, man, this dude does his due diligence.
Yeah.
I was impressed.
Yeah.
Even at that call, right? I'm at a restaurant in New York and I'm talking to you. I'm like, man, and you're asking all the questions, but I noticed you was silent every time I was talking. How do you process information?
I think information is the most valuable thing we can consume. You know what I'm saying? I feel like there's never enough information. It could be wrong information,
right?
But it's never enough information. Meaning you can take it in from any place, any form, any walk of life, any race, male, female, anything. I take in information from anybody. There's nobody too small or too big that I can't get information from. And then it's up to me to cipher through that information to see what's good for me, what's good for me to hold on to, what's good for me to use and apply to something that I'm doing. So I think everything is information. My whole life, since I was a kid, I remember sitting in the barbershop and just listening to people talk, And I still like to be in the barbershop longer because that's where a lot of talking is happening. You know what I'm saying? So
they teach you.
And our barbershop was like around a lot of my hood that I grew up in. So, I learned a lot of information just sitting there waiting to get my hair cut in the barbershop. I learned a lot of information sitting around my bigger, older brothers, my mamas, the guys they was dating, just listening. So I think I learned that early as a child. And I want just listening when people thought I wasn't listening.
That's what your mom said. She said you can sit around, listen to the adults talk, and just kind of process things.
And I remember if I didn't know what the word means, I would remember it till I got to where I can jot a word down. And it was like my own dictionary, right? I would have like a list of words that I had to find the meaning for.
Yeah.
Something that I may heard somebody say that I didn't know what it means. Or I had to hear that word used in a sentence again, or I had to actually look it up to see like what they meant by that. I used to do this since I was a child.
Why? Why'd you do that?
I just wanted to know.
Information.
Yeah. I want to know the information. And I believe that, like, you know, some people say that, you know, experience is the best learning lesson. In some cases, you know what I'm saying? But I don't think, like, I do think you could learn from other people's mistakes. So I think that, I believe in prevention. So if I learn from your mistakes, I don't have to bump my head to learn it. I can learn it. You already bumped your head, I ain't got to bump mine. You know what I'm saying? So that's a lot of information too.
I done bumped my head a lot of times. I ain't got no hair left.
Yeah. I'm not saying that I didn't. I bumped mine too. You get what I'm saying? But I'm saying if we can prevent ourselves from doing it, we should. You know, that's part I feel like what I do with some of the artists I work with. You know, they should never bump their head the way I did, because I'm giving you the information that I done wrong already. So why would you go do it the exact same way and bump yours after I already told you it hurt? You know what I'm saying?
What's it like running a record label here in 2023? Because the music industry has changed. I mean, listen, I remember when I first discovered you, no disrespect, guy, LimeWire, Napster was still kind of flowing, and I was getting it, right? But I mean, what's it like today in 2023 when so much has changed? Streaming, you always hear artists complaining about what that's like, but you found a way, you pivoted, and here you are. What's it like in 2023 running a music label?
I think that the value of being a hustler is adapting to change and being ahead of the curve. I do think that the music business is approached differently than, you know, how when I was first sitting and coming up. But you just gotta adapt. You gotta understand. You know, for me, each artist I ever work with is his own thing. You know what I'm saying? Like no two people the same. You gotta know what motivates that person, what that person's strengths and weaknesses are, fears are, what gets them up and keep them going, what'll pull them down. You know what I mean? And as a mentor, I feel like that's what I am to them more than anything, is like a big brother or a mentor, and I got to help them accelerate those strengths and stay away from those things that demotivate them and make them feel like
you best know the business if you are trying to get into the music industry. Yes. I feel the exact same way.
You know,
it's the easiest way to see it because it's straight from the heart. It's not a shoe. It's not a shoe. It's not a shirt. It's not a juice. It's straight from your heart. It's just you perform, feel inside. And they made a business off of that.
At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little.
So how do you push an artist without killing their confidence? That's the art, I think.
How do you do it?
I think that's my own little trick.
Well, I mean, listen, man, take me back to that young Mario Mims, right? Again, I was talking to your mom, wonderful woman, man. And she was smiling and we were reminiscing about the Fila suits, you know, how you used to come fresh, but she had a story about how she was always working, right? And then, she left her life and then she went to work at a store. And she would come home and she would be expecting y'all to be doing your homework, right?
Yeah.
But here you are upstairs and she was thinking you were doing homework, but here you are writing all these papers and jotting down, right? Take me back to that room where all that paper was on the floor and you were writing, and that young Mario Mims was just discovering his craft. What were you doing?
Well, I was in love with hip hop, and I was trying to figure out how to critique my craft to be, something that was special, that would cut through in the world with so many people was doing it. What was gonna make me different than everybody else that was doing it in my high school or even just in my neighborhood? Like, what's gonna make me be special than the thousands of people that I was seeing that was trying to do it? 'Cause I used to be in school and they had what they call them, not battle rappers. We didn't battle rap where we from, but everybody rapped. I wouldn't consider battle rap because we weren't talking about each other, how they do that.
Just a little
on
crowd.
the East Coast. Yeah, but like where you kind of like in who got the best flow.
Yeah.
So, and there was a lot of guys in my school I thought had better flows, you know what I'm saying? So I had to be like trying to figure out how to come up with those flows so I'd be ready when we go back in the lunchroom. You know,
freestyles.
but but even before that, but that was just a thing. But before that, I feel like my mom and my aunties put the value of nice things and luxury things in my mindset because they had them. You know, like you said, the feel-out jogging suits, putting the big ropes around me, taking me to the fights. We had houses in Vegas. You know, this whole lifestyle was like, you know, having money is what I seen them doing. They was having money. You know, my mom, my aunts, everybody around them, they friends, everybody was having money. So that's you know, I thought you supposed to have money, right? You know, then I seen it all get taken away from me.
And your mom left.
Yeah, so I seen all the money go away and people go to prison and the lifestyle change and, you know, so then that was kind of like a hold up. You know what I'm saying? What's going on here? And
did that make you want to be a rapper more or make you want to make more money to get it back?
Nah. I don't think that made me want to be a rapper more because at that point, I don't even know if I understood that rapping could make money.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It made me probably want to be a hustler more. Or it made me want to be the man of the house more. It made me want to put my mom in a better position after I seen her go from driving Benzes and stuff like that to the car she was driving. You know, I think it was like a blue Cavalier or something. The seat broke. It was like, you know what I'm saying? It was like it was a whole different lifestyle. So to me, and she never said this thing out of her mouth, but to me, I looked at her like that was an uncomfortable situation for her. So at a very early age, I wanted to change that. You know, then I seen my brother try to change it. And I seen him go to prison. And then, you know, I wanted to change it. So they made me start taking whatever I was doing serious.
You went to Tennessee State and your mom said she wanted to force you because she wanted you to major and you went for a semester, I believe, and did business.
Actually, I went to Southwest Community College.
Southwest Community.
I tried to go to Tennessee State.
Okay, Mom said you went to Tennessee, but you went to community college.
Yeah, so, you know, one of the things I wanted to do was graduate from mom. I was the first, you know, my bigger brother didn't finish school, so, you know, my mama didn't play by school. You lived in her house, you woke up, you went to school. If you were sick, you didn't need a house. So if you want to play sick, you sick, cool, stay in the house. We ain't want to be in the house, so we'll go to school even if we were sick.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because we won't be outside. You dig? So, you know, that was something I wanted to do at the time. You know, thinking back, it wasn't even for me. I wanted to do that for her. I just wanted to finish school because it was so easy to drop out of school. You know, everybody around me in the environment I was living in, nobody was focused on finishing school. So that was the easiest thing for me to do, to not finish. But I really wanted to, though, you know, I really wanted to do that for her, and I done it. You know, then I wanted to go to TSU. I applied, and they denied me. So I went to Southwest Community College because I heard that if you do a semester in a community college, you can then transfer up there to Tennessee State. But I never made it to Tennessee State.
But you was majoring in business for that.
Yeah.
What was your, at that point, if you had put hip hop or rapping aside, like, did you want to be a businessman? Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, businessman, entrepreneur.
Yeah. Did you know what that meant? I was asking Pharrell. He says he didn't know what that word meant.
But I was already a businessman, actually.
Yeah.
At that time, you know, a businessman without the degree.
Yeah.
Or without the paperwork. You know what I'm saying? So, I guess I was just trying to go see the other side of, you know, the what else I don't know.
One of the things that impressed me when your mom was talking was that she said she had purchased tickets to a hip hop show. Is that two stories actually? Your first rap or your first concert, your mom, your sister show up. You said if they come in, you're not getting on stage.
Yeah,
she said it's because maybe you want to have profanity and you don't want to hear. Is that what that was?
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't like my mom listening to my music.
Because you don't make good.
None of that because, you know,
because the
I'm
music
a big person on respect.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I know what I was talking about. I ain't wanted to hear it. You know what I'm saying? So that's probably what she was speaking about. But I ain't like her to listen to the music and come to the shows and nothing like that because, you know,
how could you?
I was talking about
I don't know.
But she did hear it, and then she came and you was like, can you tone it down? You don't
Mom,
got to tell everything, but...
So, Mom, let me ask you a question. If I was the biggest gun dealer in the world right now, would you be proud of me? Yes, I know you would be proud of me.
The second story was
but
she said she had got you
would
some
you
tickets.
understand if I said I didn't want you to come
thought
around?
You
Hold
love
on.
him, all of a sudden she go to present you.
If I was the biggest in the world, I know you would be proud of me. But imagine I made my living, the entire living that takes care of us, off of something that kills people, or the death of people, or a weapon of death for people. It would still be some mixed feelings there. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's some mixed feelings there. I don't care what you say. Yeah, you live comfortably, but it's mixed feelings because every day people are dying because of your products.
You say, nah, Mom, I don't want to go. I want to be on the stage. I don't want to be in the crowd. What show was that? And I thought it was a Jay-Z show. Was that Jay-Z show?
I don't think it was a Jay-Z show. But they took me to a couple shows. Like I used to go to like New Edition shows, and I remember going to a couple shows that I actually went to with my aunt and them, you know. And like I said, I was just fascinated with hip hop and the artistry. So, you know, after a couple shows, it wasn't the first show, but after a couple shows, I was kind of like, nah, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, the concert, I can't remember the exact artist, but I remember it was at the Orpheum, I think, in Memphis, when I was like, nah, I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna perform in there one day.
You wanna be on stage?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who was you studying at that time? I mean, I know you said 3-6 was some fans, and then, you know, Al Capone back then, you know, 8-Ball, MJG, you know,
Yeah.
Memphis Legends.
I think I studied everybody, I feel like a little bit, you know, because I want to know what they was doing. Anybody that I seen that people like that, I want to know why people like you.
Yeah.
What is it, right? So some music that I didn't personally, it wasn't my style of music that I like, but I still, you know, listen to it to try to figure out what's the components that people taking away from this that I may not like, that I need to know about. So I used to, you know, I would listen for that. But I liked it, 8-Ball, MJG, of course, because they were doing storytelling, music and stuff like that.
Coming out hard.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite tracks.
And Juvenile.
Yeah.
Juvenile, Cash Money. And we were listening to Jay-Z like early. And being from the South, like me and my crew, we was riding around listening to Jay record talking about, you know, damn, I just shot my brother. Ran off in the night like they want my brother.
Yeah.
Like I remember riding in a Galante. You remember what them cars is?
Yeah, Mitsubishi.
Yeah, we in a Mitsubishi Galante. Man, well, Lord knows what's in the car.
It ain't a Galante,
You feel
it's a
me?
Galant.
Listening to Jay-Z.
The Galante or the Diamantes?
I just shot my brother, you know what I'm saying? Like, I remember that like it was yesterday with no idea that I would ever meet Jay-Z.
Yeah.
Or, you know, do business with him or do anything with him, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, with hustler music, I feel like I was on hustler music when a lot of people was on like rah-rah music. You know what I mean? Just like, wow. Nah, for some reason, I just gravitated to like the get money music.
Yeah. Again, man, thank you for inviting us to your house. It's not so much to get into more, but early in your career, once you figured out you had the hits and you were going through, I think it was TVT,
Yeah.
and you know, you meet with Baby and Slim and Cat. What information are you processing at that point? When you're down there and you're watching them build Cash Money, you're studying Master P, like what information are you processing as a hip hop artist?
Well, you know, what I was doing at the time was kind of lucrative for me, right? And not knowing any real artists that was really like successful.
It depends on how you're selling guns, legal or illegal. It don't matter. I'm selling guns.
Still like that today, but
no, I'm selling guns. I don't care what if it's legal. I'm selling guns legally. Now I want to wait. I'm gonna wait for your comment. I'm selling guns legally. There's still, I'm gonna say there's still mixed feelings for me. I don't know about you, but I want to hear your take. Because for me, no matter legal or illegal, it's still mixed feelings going to be involved. Because the guns, whether I sold it and have paperwork and can track down who shot and killed who, doesn't matter. Because we can see it every day. I'm not saying guns are bad, good, or nothing. I'm using it as an example because it is a good example exactly to what we talking about. Oh, no. I know you're going to be proud of me. That wasn't the question. You're going to be proud no matter what. The question I'm trying to say is, how does it feel for you or for anyone if what I'm doing for a living, home to my mom, my family, the people I care about, how does that feel? How does that look? All right, yeah, Mom, you can't come to the show because of what I say in my songs. Not because the crowd is going to be too wild, not because you don't want to be out late or they're going to be doing stuff that you don't approve of. Because I myself am saying things in my music or in my product or whatever that I don't want you to hear or see. How many porn stars you think are giving their parents a copy of their work? That's what I'm saying. I don't look at guns as killing people. People kill people. Well, okay. I can't wait till you get to the part where I started talking about porn stars. I'm going to finish playing Yo Gotti now.
For some reason, there was a stigma that people thought that, like, oh, if you was in the street, you having money, the rappers ain't really having money for real. You know what I'm saying? Like, for some reason, I don't know where it came from, but like, that you thought everybody's stuff was rented in the cars, everything you seen on MTV and BET was fabricated, right? So I think for me, going around Cash Money was the realization of, nah, shit real. You know what I'm saying? You know, because I went around Baby Slim and everything you ever seen in every video was in their driveway. You know what I'm saying? So I'm at the house, I'm staying at their house and I'm looking at, 10, 15, 20 cars in the driveway and I'm just around and that was the first time that I realized, like, nah, the rap game, like, is for real, like, So I think that was a pivotal moment for me because, sometimes seeing is believing.
Yeah.
So that was the first time that I was able to see and believe and know that, nah, it's real money in making music.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you proved me wrong, man. I was able to see and believe that a lime green Rolls Royce exists, right? And we pull up and one's sitting in your drive. Matter of fact, the guy comes past. I'm like, what is that? Is that I see your car collection, and you have that album out right now. I Showed You So. Great album, driveway furniture, man. You was sitting down talking about it, and as we pull up, all these cars is parked in your driveway, right? Including that lime green Rolls Royce. What is your favorite car out of all the ones we've seen?
At this point, probably the Phantom, the OG Phantom, the big one,
The black one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Over the lime green?
Yeah, it's like a fun car.
Yeah.
I put together, I love cars, so I like to put cars together, different color coordinations and do things that's different, It's just my way of playing with cars. I was a Hot Wheel fan when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I used to collect Hot Wheels. And
Did you get the little track with the cars?
I love cars, so, that's one of my things.
Yeah. Listen, Gotti, you can give us one of yours when we leave. Get a Christmas gift. You feeling in the holiday spirit, you know? But listen, man, jumping into the business again, CEO of CMG Records. When you look around, and I listened to a comment that Jermaine Dupri made, right? Jermaine Dupri, one of the more respected icons in music. And it was something he said earlier. He was asked about if Atlanta is still the center of music. And he says it feels like it's shifted to Memphis.
Yeah.
Atlanta's still great, but the talent pool is not what it once was from him.
Yeah.
But Memphis is where it's at now, right? You being where you are, positioned in Memphis, having CMG Records, artists down, coming from there, outside of there, but do you feel that that's true?
Yeah, I feel like the light on Memphis right now. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like the light moves, It was on Atlanta, it was on Houston, it's on Memphis right now. And I think probably what you're referring to is that, artists from Memphis nowadays, have a better shot likely of one of these major record labels picking them up when nobody looked at us at one point.
You shining, hold on,
went to Atlanta.
You singing words that is hard for me to hear. That is a better example. I would choose not to listen. Let me ask this question then. Would you buy my guns? would you be upset if, hold on, let me get the perfect example for this. Okay. First of all, would you buy my guns that I sell? And then the next question is, how would you feel when someone you know close to me is shot using one of, or someone that's close to you is shot using one of my guns? I just want to ask that question. I'm not saying ban guns. What I'm just trying to get a feeling of, I'm trying to see how you would feel about that. Because although you may not buy my weapon, someone else may, and they may use it on us. And I guess that's a person thing, huh? And not the product, right? If they just laying on the shelf, they would never do nothing. Yeah, guns ain't a good one. Whatever. But I will say this. If you choose not to listen, that's my point right there. It's like, all right, you may not be the person that is consuming my product. Like, you, the person that's close to me, you don't listen to my music because it's too harsh for you. That's cool. Got it. Now, is there anything now that I could do to get you to partake in that you will care about, you will love from me? Yes, there are things, and I can use that first thing that you may not listen to, like as in it's too harsh for you, to, you know, kind of get me to that thing that you will partake in, you know? I don't know. It's just, I always get mixed emotions about all that.
I guess that's what he meant, you know what I'm saying? You know, but I think Atlanta got dope talent. Memphis, we just always had it just was overlooked for so long, but we always been great musicians, you know. The history of Memphis, soul and stacks, and you know what I mean? Like, it's a music town, so we always had the music. You know, people just didn't know, and then a lot of bigger cities would come, you know, taking the flavor. You know what I mean? They would come and taking the flavor and putting their little sauce on it. You know what I'm saying?
I would buy the gun from you because I am not against guns. Gotcha.
You know, that's part of the game.
Yeah. I mean, listen, man. All the years I've been going to Memphis, I love it. Gus's Fried Chicken.
I like
man,
that.
You get that authentic feel down there. The music and going to the clubs, like you.
It's
really
always nice to hear.
It. When you look at Memphis today, right, in 2023, heading into 2024, what do you see?
You know, it's my hometown, so I feel like they develop in the city way bigger. You know, they spending more money on the city than when I was coming up. You know, high rises, different hotels. From the music scene, again, there's way more opportunity for artists to have better shots to come out of that. But you know, Memphis still just Memphis to me.
Yeah.
It's still just home. You know, I know all the back roads, back streets. I know everybody. It's still just home to me.
Yeah. Again, into the business, when I say these names, man, just give me one word that pops to mind, right? And I'll start with Master P.
Dang, I'm probably gonna lose this because of this ad. I probably is gonna lose anyway. He going up straight over the top of me. My bad for the ad, y'all. All right, there we go.
Icon, legendary, hustler.
Jay-Z.
Like Jay to me.
One word, Gotti.
Okay. Go.
50 Cent.
50 Cent, he legend.
Legend.
Yeah.
I say 50 because, you know, he was one of the people that stepped to you when you were talking about changing your name, right? It's CMG now, Collective Music Group. It once was Cocaine Music Group, and you said, hey, it was good then, but you had to pivot, right?
Yeah.
Business, sometimes you got to pivot, you got to change the image. Take me into that conversation what 50 said to you that allowed you to understand this, it was the right move.
Yeah, so I think it was Chris Lighter introduced me to 50 before he passed, and I was talking to 50 one time, and he just, I think it was around the time I was doing a deal with Epic Records, and we was talking about CMG, and he was familiar with the mixtapes, the mixtape series and all that. And 50, if anybody know 50, if he talked to you, right, he just volunteer information from you. I think if he like you, you know what I'm saying. So he used to tell me a lot of information, just things that I thought was valuable information and that I should use. You know what I'm saying? Things that he probably had.
Oh, I forgot to switch my
walls he had
too.
probably ran into early on that he probably seen that I probably could have ran into. So he was just giving me game that like, yo, you probably shouldn't do it this way and do that. So basically he was just telling me.
See what you're saying. So there are some songs that you and your brothers have recorded that I think is hot, and I would listen to. I have listened to, but there are songs that I am like, nope, not gonna listen to. But someone else is loving it. Just because you use those words won't make me less proud of you or love you less. We are individuals and like what we like. So what I was trying to evoke from you is there things in our society that we all just is like, nah. And I want you to know that it is not one thing in our society that is totally taboo. And the reason why I'm saying it, or I'm going on that angle, is because, like you said, somebody else may like it, but is it good for us all is what I'm trying to say. I think we kind of we at like a real thin line when we say like, all right, I like this, but is it good for me? It's like a real thin line when we look at that, because yeah, sure, you like it, but is it good for you? Is the key, is the point I'm trying to make. That's all. And it's tough to really, really put that into perspective without using something as drastic as, hey, guns, or let's just say killing people in general. That is, yeah, sure, it's taboo, right? Okay, and we don't do it, and we try to find people and fight against those who do, right? Yes, that is the case, but it is also used as capital punishment. It's also used in a form where we all might be like, well, yeah, we don't really like it, but yeah. You see what I'm saying? And so with you saying, or me looking at it and saying, Yo Gotti is making music that somebody that he say his brother went to jail trying to make a way, for his family and for his mom to get what they needed. And then he turned around, he stepped up to the plate and was making music. At this point, he made music, and the music is making it possible for his mom to get what she wanted, for him to get what he wants, a desire for his family. But they can't even consume of what it is. He wouldn't even want them to consume of what it is that he's doing. If I'm selling dope, I'm selling drugs, right? Is it that you would you want some of the drug money? You may not want the drugs, but would you want some of the drug money? Is what I'm trying to point out. You see what I'm saying? So he's making his music, but he don't even want his mom and them to listen to it. And it's a whole tangent. We on a whole tangent, I feel, but still, I think that is part of the problem with industry. You can't get into an industry where it's a complete total opposite of what your heart feels inside of you. Yeah, sure, you want to hustle and make all this money, but what you hustling and making all of the money doing, you don't agree with. That's why we're so far down this path of not knowing what it is that we are and who we are. But yeah, it just depends on what the thing is. There are some things that I am just totally against and are against it for my children. And that's what I'm talking about right there. What if I was making my entire living that is supporting me and my family off of something that you are against? As my parent, as someone I care about, how does that affect me? I'm spending just as much time trying to keep this thing away from you as I am making money off of it or supporting you with it. I'm trying to keep it away from you, and I'm supporting you with this. It just seems kind of, for me, I fully I understand it, or I understand it so much that I can see where it is that people just like, hey, I'm gonna throw up my hands and I'm gonna keep going to the best of my ability, but there's nothing really I can do about this. I have to do this thing that I don't agree with to make my living. So for me, you give some and you lose some. You win some and you lose some. I want to see what you say back, though. That is why I said you need to be sure of the business. So my point is, when I look at it, that's why I gave the description of what I felt industry was. If internally you are against your idea, then why would you take it to the industry of making it? Take it through the industry of making it. Now, I'm not saying that that does not happen or is no need for that. As in, all right, I don't agree with having to punish my children when I see that they're crying. I may be like, oh man, I went too far. But then also, when I see the result of the punishment, I see a corrected action, I'm like, all right, cool. I agree with that idea now. That idea sits well with me. And that's why I always get so on edge about the music topic and the music and the people that we look at as big music stars, because it's like, bruh, what did you do? Did you pour poison in there in my IV, or did you?
You should change the name from cocaine music because you may scare the corporate people.
Yeah.
And I had never thought of that. I'm like, yeah, he probably right. You know what I'm saying? So he like, you still rap about what you want to rap about. You move how you want to move, but just make sure on paper though, you need to make sure your business like clean and that, because you don't want to like,
That's why he's switching. He talk about he switched the name.
People, on first impression, and they hear the name cocaine music.
You see what I'm saying? He wouldn't switch the name. Listen, he wouldn't switch the name of it if he agreed with it. And I don't want to bash Yo Gotti. He's selling whatever it is he's selling. But that is why you can ask yourself the question on why we polluted as a people. Ask yourself the question, because we keep letting people sell us poison. And now the poison isn't the problem. You need the poison. Because what would we know? How would we know how to fix the poison if we ain't got the poison? But what I'm saying is we shouldn't be praising the poison like it's actually the cure or it's actually the thing we needed. No. Terrible. I'm not gonna lie. When I look back, I can say, hey man, talking about some of this stuff wasn't okay. Oh, let me put Yo Gotti back on, y'all. Sorry.
Do business with you. So that was a good piece of advice. 50 gave me a valuable piece of advice.
Do you share that with your artists now?
Yeah, of course. I think like I said, information. If you pick up information, you pass it down.
the word valuation keeps on popping in mind when I talk about you now, because apparently you're into valuations and taking classes about it. And I'm just going to read you a couple of numbers, right? 500 million, right? That was what Bruce Springsteen's catalog sold for. Bob Dylan, right? 400 million. That's what you said when you hear big numbers, you pay attention, right?
Yeah.
Looking long term, what's the plan for CMG? I mean, is this eventually, you own, do you sell, or do you keep it in? You know, wealth, build wealth, legacy. What's the plan for CMG?
I don't know right today. I got the exact answer. What I do at the end.
Still got to process it.
Yeah, but what I do know is that we come out on top. I do know we come out on top. I do know that we not one of the stories of, what they had and could have been, and you know what I'm saying, and how they fumbled the ball. That's absolutely not happening. So all these guys you talking about, I studied everybody. I watched everything. I watched, Iveen's story. I watched the Geffen story. I watch everybody, P, Rough Riders, Murder Inc. Anybody that done it, on different levels. I watched everybody's story, and I just, I watch it for my own study to know what people done the right way, what people done the wrong way, and I do all that to make sure when it gets to our turn that we come out on top regardless.
With that said, though, a couple more things to let you get out of here, because you're a CEO. You're busy, right? Yeah. But when you look at that, they may not have fumbled the ball, but I look at empires in music, and they always go through some turbulence before they eventually break. Jay and Rockefeller, the history's there. G-Unit has some problems. You see the history. No Limit, same thing. Cash Money, same thing. How do you avoid that? How do you avoid the human being stuff takes down empires?
I look at them as two different things, right? Because I look at them, when you talk about the human being things with me and my brotherhood with my artists,
And sisterhood too,
Say it again?
And the sisterhood too with the women,
yeah. With the artists, I look at that separate because no matter what happens, I hope that the relationship stays intact, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't just look out for my best interest, I look out for our best interest. So when I'm talking to my artists, I tell them, this is what I'm gonna do, and this is how I'm gonna exit, and this is what I think you should do, and you should do this so that you moving with me along the same side. So I feel like my job is to give you the game and give you the information on how we're gonna do this, right? And if you happen to choose a different path that everybody, grown men, grown women, they can do what they want to do. But I think the human thing is like, for me, is always do right by the artists I work with.
All right, so that was Yo Gotti talking to us for a second. Y'all give me a second, I'm gonna get something else on for us. Trying not to let bruh just keep walking back and forth. I do this every time though. I do want to see one more thing. All right, there we go. Let me see something real quick. I just want to show y'all this.
Industry plants are artists that are planted in the music industry by labels or other important people. Sometimes they can be hard to spot, and sometimes they are painfully obvious and generic, which...
All right, hold on. Let me see this. You have to know what you want and stand on it. Hold on, wait. Okay. No. Okay, there we go. Let me go up. None of the drugs and none of the drug money. That is why I said you need to be sure of the business. But as you being an adult, what can I do? I can let you know how I feel. You have to know what you want and stand on that. It is an oxymoron to say I'm against drugs, but I promote drug use in my music and sell drugs to people. Stand on what you believe no matter what. Don't sell your soul. Right. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, bruh, you talk about sell your name. The name of your company was Cocaine Music. Now, I understand how you would spin it. You got to get out of there however you got to get out of there. I understand how you would do all of that. And I understand the reasoning behind it. But if at some point you feel bad about it, and then that means the entire time. You see what I'm saying? You can't keep stealing from somebody and then every time you get caught say I was only stealing because I was trying to give it to somebody else. We're gonna just look at the stealing, my mans. We just gonna look at the stealing. We don't care about nothing that came after. But I do want to put this here. I want to put these two words in your mind because it's not about, like I said, the industry is not some fantasy land out there. It's about us as beings here on this planet deciding how we're going to be here, what we're going to do here while we're here. So let me show y'all these two words, industry, plant.
Deter people from wanting
because I got to
listen.
shape
And
your
the
ideas, the ideas you got in
plants
your
are
head.
artists that are planted in the music industry by labels or other important people. Sometimes they can be hard to spot, and sometimes they are painfully obvious and generic, which can deter people from wanting to listen. And those are the people that we're going to be checking out today. So today I have gathered 4 artists that were planted in the music industry but failed to grow. But first, let's quickly define what an industry plant is. So the term industry plant is thrown around all the time with tons of people giving it different definitions. For example, when you Google industry plant, the definition is artists who have only just started in the industry and are then picked up by a major label and groomed to be a star. But the issue with this definition and many similar ones is that it can be applied to a lot of artists. The whole point of a label picking up an artist in the first place is to help them blow up. A better definition is an artist who is a major/indie label backing their movement but presents themselves as a homegrown startup to create the illusion of an organic following. But the issue with this definition too is that whether or not you're an industry plant, a lot of artists aren't very talkative about their label, and a lot of artists like to run with the did it on my own narrative. So that doesn't really help narrow down the list. However, for the sake of this video, I'm going to define industry plants as artists who sign early in their careers and have their image created mostly by the label as some sort of marketing gimmick. What I mean by this is that these artists have their personality, their music, and their style tailored to a certain audience, which typically comes off as very inauthentic. You'll see what I mean as we go throughout the rest of the video, so let's start off with one of the most notorious industry plants that there is, Jumex. So Jumex is one of the first artists that people tend to think of when it comes to industry plants. He's an artist who started blowing up.
Hold on, let me see something. I got to see something. Because if you ask me, the reason why hip-hop music is so whack now is because all of these people who were making music.
Make money on Depop. Buy your favorite brands secondhand for cheaper than retail.
When I was growing
Save on
up,
the latest styles. When you're
they
done,
kind of needed to
sell them with no
shut up.
Usually when an artist blows up out of nowhere and goes viral,
okay, like I was saying, the reason why it's like this now is because you got to stay in power somehow. I run this business. I'm not about to give it up to you. I've been doing this all my life. Why would I give it up to you? And so the industry people or the people who've been running the business side of things this entire time, they like, yeah, I'm gonna put my people on. I ain't gonna put your people on because they're gonna keep the message that I need going. Who wouldn't do that? This is mine. This world is mine. I'm not gonna give it to you.
Nowhere, which has left a lot of people feeling like there are industry plants popping up every other day. So today I wanted to look into these artists and their come-ups and get to the bottom of this industry plant epidemic. Starting off with Tommy Richmond. Tommy Richmond is the most recent hip-hop artist to get hit with industry plant accusations. And to be fair, it's kind of understandable. After his song $1 Million Baby went super viral, he became the first artist since Oliver Anthony to debut at #2 on the Billboard Hot 100 with no previous chart history. On top of that, the song has over 600 million streams on Spotify. If you think you haven't heard the song, you definitely have. It's been all over TikTok, and I know I'm not the only one of us who's up late scrolling on TikTok when you should be sleeping. To many people, he came out of nowhere and became one of many artists on this list who was immediately hit with the industry plant accusations. So let's look into it. Tommy Richmond is an artist who, after one quick look into his Spotify history, you can see he's actually been dropping music for a very long time, ever since 2016. For a long time, his music was nothing special, but over the years, he definitely started finding refining his sound with better production, better vocals, better mixing, and he got pretty nice at singing, I can't lie. He had some buzz in the underground and worked with some other fairly well-known artists in the underground space like Big Baby Gucci and Perry Mason. He started getting a bit more experimental, making indie type of songs mixed with some rock type of songs mixed with his rap songs. So Tommy definitely had some buzz in the underground scene. He even got a song with Merlin Wood in January of 2023, who, if you didn't know, was in Brockhampton. And then Tommy got an opportunity. In 2023, Pulse Records partnered up with Brent Faiyaz's agency.
Okay, I don't want to hear just about him. Okay, now this look like it might be better.
If you were an evil record executive that wanted to create a system that could extract as much wealth from the artists, how would it look?
Easy money.
Okay.
You create somebody who is the most radical persona of counterculture as possible, and feed them hits.
Exactly.
So there are few terms in hip hop that serve as like a truly grievous insult to any self-respecting rapper. There's biter.
Yo, man, you're biting. All your homeboys are biting.
Sellout.
Yo, is the reason why you don't call me no more is because you're a sellout or because you're just a star?
Studio gangster, Stan, and many others. To call a rapper one of those terms, at least back in my day, probably still up to now, those were fighting words for the most part. However, there's a new term that is taking on a much more prominent role as an insult to alleged fake rappers and rap artists, and that term is industry plant.
Now on Hulu.
We still look as good as we did back in the day.
Sisterhood reigns supreme.
To the Supremes. To the Supremes.
Anjanou Ellis-Taylor, Sanaa Lathan, Uzo Aduba, The Supremes, rated PG-13, now streaming only on Hulu.
I'm Donald J. Trump.
Haven't you seen that movie?
The alarming spike in inflation soaring to its highest level in nearly.
What is that term, and why is it such a big insult, not just to rappers, but pretty
Right,
much
I wanted
to
y'all to
any
hear
modern
this
musician?
about
In
industry.
an essay on a
what the
website
industry
called
do.
Loud and Quiet, a writer named Daniel Dillon Ray describes
Daniel.
the industry plant as such. Largely accepted to mean an artist who presents themselves as being independent and doing things on their own terms, but secretly has the industry backing and money to fund them and to artificially shape such a narrative. And I think that's a pretty good definition, but it doesn't get at why this term has become more of an insult today than, say, 20 years ago. For most of the existence of a music industry,
We got
having
about 15
corporate
minutes left,
backing of
y'all.
some sort was kind of a requirement. Most musicians didn't have the ability to press up their own records, let alone distribute them widely. So as the music industry developed, the role of administrative, industrial, production company became a prominent aspect of making money as a musician. And the control of that part of the industry was worth a lot of money. But today, however, none of that matters. You don't need to press up records or CDs. You're basically uploading your brand new song to your Spotify account or TikTok, hoping it will go viral. You're no longer working with a label or a distribution company to get your CD to be released at the best time of the year, to go to Circuit City on a Tuesday to buy the album. Circuit City doesn't even exist anymore. If you're under the age of 25, you probably don't even know what I'm talking about. Instead, in 2024, you're waiting until release Friday to see what your stream data looks like. As independent music has become much more viable, the wealth and power of the music industry has diminished, and this has led to the industry making a greater effort to control what little music culture they have left under their thumb, which has allegedly led to them purposely trying to manufacture or plant corporately backed artists into the popular discourse. And these artists then make good but relatively unoffensive, unchallenging mainstream music with the hope of reshaping the music landscape in a way that maybe gives these industry forces more power, or at least makes them some decent money that they wouldn't have made otherwise. And if true, yeah, I can see why such a thing might be seen as shameful to participate in as an artist. If you're a plant, that means that you're willing to sell your soul for the sake of being famous, that you're not a real artist, that you're allowing yourself to be used by the industry instead of charting your own path, and that you weren't giving the world your best art, or worse yet, you're getting in the way of other better artists. But this is also why, to me, that concept doesn't make a lot of sense, because if you ask me, as long as good art is being made, I don't have a huge problem with the industry taking part in it. It's the reality of the situation. The fact is that artisan development was a huge part of the old ways of making music, and I think it's sorely missed today. I think we're probably on a lot of levels getting worse music from not every artist, but some artists than if they had a bigger team forcing them to improve their craft. Like, the running joke is that Lil Baby has been making the same 3 songs over and over for the past 5-6 years. If he was forced into a real development situation, that maybe wouldn't be happening. At the same time, the existence of suspected industry plants like Chance the Rapper, Jack Harlow, Billie Eilish does raise a few eyebrows in terms of how they get so big and so popular while not necessarily having such groundbreaking music. This is definitely the truth for Jack Harlow. But that also doesn't mean that they have an oversized level of influence on the industry either, or that great music isn't still being made today by them or other artists, just like great music was being made 20, 30 years ago. So it's hard to pinpoint exactly where the so-called industry plant really should exist, at least in 2024. This conspiracy theory doesn't fully add up once you scrutinize it a bit. To me, the whole thing is given barbershop argument. It's mostly something that people say to disparage an artist that they don't like and don't have a good reason to dislike. But that doesn't mean that this concept is completely without merit, nor that it may not have a historical significance. And that brings me to this
We're gonna start rounding out.
Topic. What if I told you that hip hop may have had the first ever industry plant way back in the 80s, well before we knew what an industry plant was? And what if I told you that in this case, that industry plant was able to dominate all of hip hop for half a decade and be a significant influence on trends, fashion, media, and music in ways that maybe they didn't deserve? That this act was on the same level as Will Smith, Rakim, Run DMC, and they created dance and fashion trends, starred in crossover media, and in many ways were more prominent and with greater celebrity status than any rapper or rap group had ever been up to that point, all while being barely recognizable on whatever thumbnail I'm using right now. This is the thumbnail like now. It may not be when you actually click on it.
That's right.
Just keeping it real with y'all. This is a rap duo that literally shaped a ton of black culture at the time, out of nowhere. Yet today, them and their music is barely relevant from one of hip hop's most relevant, memorable eras. You might ask, how could anyone from that era be so influential in the moment and then mostly forgotten as time goes on? Was it because they were propped up by the industry? Or was it because of something deeper, possibly more sinister? And how did all of this affect and change hip hop as we know it today, for better or possibly for worse? To understand this, we have to ask, what happened with Kid and Play? So it's the late 80s, and this musical genre called hip hop that was born out of New York in the late 70s is starting to grow from local niche scene in New York block and house parties into a major music industry business. And the potential for huge hit tracks and major star power are starting to emerge. Early breakout acts like Curtis Blow and Grandmaster Flash released some of the biggest hits in hip hop history as early as 1980. Nucleus gives us Jam On It. The Sugar Hill Gang has their second huge hit with Apache. This is hip hop's most fun era, and when we don't take things too seriously, which also means this era gets overlooked and misunderstood a lot, even by yours truly. There's probably a few reasons for this, but mostly I think is because these early 80s songs, groups, and acts were still much more beholden to disco and funk sounds and aesthetics. They didn't look like hip hop yet. This is semantics, I know, and please old and older heads, don't come for me. I'm just giving my opinion, but consider what a lot of these acts look like and then compare that to what Run DMC looked like back in 1984-85. When you look at Grandmaster Flash and the Sugar Hill Gang, you still see the flamboyant, cartoonish imagery and the aesthetics of the disco influence that birthed them. Many of their songs include live bands, and the songs themselves could be 7 or 8 minutes long because they included break beats, because hip hop originated as dance music and party music. But Run DMC, while still being somewhat connected to this aesthetic, introduced something different, something cooler and edgier, more bravado, more macho, more brand conscious, and more explicitly black. At the disco, everyone was invited. Black folks, white folks, rich, poor, straight, queer. It was an alternative movement. But hip hop, which owes as much to the urban centers of New York as it does to disco nightclubs, was becoming much more black and brown and very male-centered, intense and aggressive, and Run DMC embodied all of this, even as they crossed over to white audiences, which is another incredibly important feature to the awakening of hip-hop as a national and eventually a global music force. Run DMC found ways to penetrate white audiences using more rock-oriented sounds in a lot of the records that they made, including making songs with, at the time, rock juggernaut Aerosmith. It was the first example of the crossover potential of hip hop to draw in white youth audiences the same way that jazz and rock and roll did previous generations. But as a new twist of the formula, Run DMC also became the first hip hop act to be brand conscious. The cool jumpsuits, the fat gold chains, and probably most significantly, the shell-toe Adidas, all were as important a part of the music as anything else, and paved the way for rappers to be celebrities and influencers as we might think of them today. Their song My Adidas allegedly got them $1 million endorsement deal in the 80s, which meant it was basically like $1 billion. And this surely put all of the corporate powers on notice that hip hop was a potential gold mine for the culture industry. The term the culture industry isn't just something I made up. It refers to the work of German philosophers Theodor Adorno and Max Horkheimer. And I won't bog you down.
Culture industry, gotcha. That's what I've been talking about.
75, 100 years ago, that capitalism would eventually be the driving force behind art and music. That our movies, music, dramas, pretty much everything that becomes expression of culture would eventually be negatively affected by capitalism because the industry that funds these cultural artifacts will put monetary gain ahead of artistic expression. And they have been pretty much proven right, especially as we look at popular movies and music right now. We have the superhero genre and deal.
Let me hear him say that
which
again.
Meant it was basically like $1 billion. And this surely put all of the corporate powers on notice that hip hop was a potential gold mine for the culture industry. The term the culture industry isn't just something I made up. It refers to the work of German philosophers Theodor Adorno and Max Horkheimer. And I won't bog you down with a ton of philosophy, but they theorized nearly 75, 100 years ago that capitalism would eventually be the driving force behind art and music. That our movies, music, dramas, pretty much everything that becomes expression of culture would eventually be negatively affected by capitalism because the industry that funds these cultural artifacts will put monetary gain ahead of artistic expression. And they have been pretty much proven right, especially as we look at popular movies and music right now. We have the superhero genre and the huge tentpole blockbuster films that have become basically the only type of movies that make money in theaters at this point. And worse yet, popular music, even as we've taken the industry out of the equation, has now just become a slave to trending sounds on TikTok and short 2-minute songs on streaming services, where your favorite rapper will release a bloated 15-track album where only 7 of the songs are good, and then 2 months later release the extended version with 10 more mediocre songs that are all like 1 minute and 59 seconds long to 250 if you're lucky. And the only point to that is to get as many streams as possible because that's how they make money. So the art of it all has been pretty much murdered for a lot of these mainstream
every time they get my attention.
You even get your favorite alternative rapper or R&B artist that does at least break some of the rules, but because they're controlled within the same system, their art is still stifled. In his video, The Culture Industry and the Death of Hip Hop, video essayist One Dime breaks it down perfectly.
The culture industry is a conglomeration of culture-producing factories, which generate cultural commodities for mass consumption. The term commodity
I said this.
here is key.
Oh my gosh, I said this. This is exactly what I said. It's just our ideas. We are the industry.
Music is an instance of what Adorno calls cultural commodities, not simply because they are made by the culture industries like big record labels or film studios, but because they are manufactured, like all commodities, solely to realize their exchange value on the capitalist market.
As I'm in the midst of applying for residency right now, wish me luck, Grammarly has again been a lifesaver with my application and helping me write my personal statement and CV. Grammarly is your digital writing assistant. It's an all-in-one tool that improves
Songs produced in the culture industry
I'm done
are
after
made
this
to
game,
make
yo.
money, to capture the attention of a mass audience and sell as many records as possible.
Now, I'm not blaming Run DMC for this. They were just 2 kids from New York wanting to be a part of this amazing new thing called hip hop. Little did they know that their success would be imitated across the culture so other folks can get their piece of the pie. But keep this in mind as we talk about what's happening around hip hop at this time and what happens going into the future. With Run DMC emerging, the aesthetic of early old school hip hop seemed to change overnight, and you saw the emergence of future legends like Eric B. and Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, the Beastie Boys, Salt and Pepper, LL Cool J, Boogie Down Productions, MC Lyte, EPMD, and Kid and Play. For my old heads watching who are maybe like questioning me, name 4 Kid and Play songs. Would you put Kid and Play over any of those acts I named just now from that exact same era? For my young hip hop fans, do you even know who these 2 cats are? You may recognize them just because.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop right there. And I wanted to put that in y'all mind, because if you never knew about this, then it's something that seems like it's just happening. It's something that seems like it's just going on. But if you know about this, you start to see where you've been duped, misled, lied to, guided down a path that you didn't even know you were going. Cultural commodities, you look it up. I'm gonna do my research, because now I feel good. I feel at peace with who I am now, so much more than I did before. So we're gonna go ahead and end this episode of Expansion Pack. I'm your host, Dan F. Man. We went a little bit longer today. We definitely went longer today. I got a good solid almost 4 hours. Almost 4 hours of broadcast for you now here on Expansion Pack on DGTA TV. Yeah, so y'all go ahead, tune in with me tomorrow, same time. Don't know if it's same place, but probably more than likely same time, same place. And I'm going to holla at y'all. This is Expansion Pack with your host, Dan F. Man. I don't know how many times I can say it. Peace.
Thank you.